and I want to show you something crazy. It's crazy that you sent me this. Watch.
Okay.
So you see what I'm doing right now, right?
Yeah. Taking something off the wall.
I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah. The black and white photos.
Who's the guy in the picture?
Is that Kane?
It's Cain Velasquez. See this?
Yeah.
Oh, so you just saw the.
Cain and I are brothers. Cain and I are brothers. I stay at his house in California. That's my homie.
Wow.
Like my fam, like I send his kids gifts. His kids send my kids gifts. That's like one of my brothers.
Holy shit.
I heard what happened yesterday, and I was getting calls and emails from people across Canada who know how close Cain and I are.
Yep.
And I was just reading now the update for the day that what happened, and I'm not. Dude,
Oh, what? I didn't see it. What did it say?
Somebody molested one of his. So the rumor yesterday was that somebody assaulted his son.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to be clear. I'm only going to what I see on the news, and on the news today, he was charged. He went in his car with a loaded gun, rammed the other car, got out and shot the guy twice. The guy he shot just got charged for molesting a kid, and all it says in the news is that it molested a kid very close to Cain. Now I'm not going to start rumors because I'm only going to what I heard, but I know Cain. He is the most laid back, relaxed guy in the world in real life. And I said to everybody, because people were calling me, they're like, yo, what do you think happened? I'm like, listen, it's only one of two things. Either something to do with his wife or kids would take him to that level. And so I'm going to assume, based on what it's saying in the news, that it might have been something to do with apparently like one of his kids. And the guy that he shot was just charged yesterday or 2 days ago for molesting the kid. So it's on the news. They're like, and the guy who got shot and was molested, whomever, got bail. He was out on bail.
That's fucked.
Perfect.
That's a fucking mess, man. That person should not be out on bail, especially that fast.
So I guess the guy I'm guessing, again, from what the news is saying, that the guy got bail, and Cain was like, oh, you got bail? All right, cool. Found the guy, rammed his truck into the guy, and popped him twice.
Jesus. And it's crazy too, because we usually have an intro here, but we're recording, so we're just going to roll with it. As you viewers and listeners now, I'll add something quick here. Billion Downtown, as you know, Krill Kasatsky's not with me today. Please hit him up at Krill Raps, KRILRAPS. Being from the Ukraine, he's going through a lot. My co-host Amy Barton is here, the voice from the sky, as we call her, and Neil Forster from Substance Cage Combat. I almost called it the promotion. The Substance Group is here today. We're going to keep rolling with this. Cain Velasquez. I don't know Cain.
So wait, side note, what I read was that the guy that actually got shot was the accused molester guy's stepfather. It wasn't even him.
Oh, did you just read that now? I only read what I just saw on TMZ. So
yeah, no, it said blah, blah, blah. He was arrested, charged Monday after allegedly shooting at another person who is being charged with molesting a relative of Velasquez. According to the Santa Clara District Attorney's Office, the person hit by the bullets was the stepfather of the accused and is expected to survive his injuries.
Yeah, because apparently the stepfather and the guy, the accused, were in the car together. So again, I don't know if Cain was reckless and started shooting. Who knows? Maybe he went to go confront the guy, and that stepdad jumped in front, and who knows, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I was about to say, I'm not friends with Cain. I've interviewed him a couple times back when I used to work in the combat sports world. But other than that, it's just, I don't know him at all. But his demeanor and what you always heard about him, he's a nice, friendly, calm, gentle giant, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. So this seems out of character for someone who doesn't know him well. Neil, you know him. You stay at his goddamn house. He stays at yours. I mean, that's a pretty tight friendship, right? You don't just let strangers sleep over. Is his demeanor like that? Is he a calm, gentle guy?
He is the calmest, most laid back dude ever. Even when there's no one in the room and it's just the two of us, or eating dinner, he's just a laid back guy. The guy is a very simple guy. He cares about his family, and that's it. Like nothing else. He cares about his friends and his family, and that's it. He's got a good life. He's got a good secluded life with his wife and kids. He doesn't even live in a big city. He lives 40 minutes outside of San Jose. So he doesn't even live like where there's a lot of action. He's laid back. We went to a San Francisco 49ers football game in San Francisco one year, and he wore a hat and he was like almost disguised. And he's so laid back. Like he's like so calm. It's just out of his character. So
Yeah.
Well, he was mad enough that he went on an 11-mile high-speed chase before he rammed the truck and shot into the truck.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't know what I would do if one of my children or somebody close to me, our family member, was molested by somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
I know my temper, and I'm actually a hotter head than he is. And you know, I think I don't know. I don't know.
It's funny you say that. You're more of a hothead than he is. The first time I ever met you, I remember you walked into a place. I'm not going to put them on blast, but you walked into a place and I happened to be in there, and you had the look on your face like, these fucking pieces of shit. And you came in and you talked to a few people, and then you had this look on your face, and I was like, yo, that guy must be a real asshole. Well, these people turned out to be fucking scumbags, ripping off fighters and all kinds of shit. So in the end, I was like, now I know why Neil came in there, because when I did SCC as media, I met you there again, and you were cool as could be, nicest guy ever. I had you on my show a couple times back in the day, nice as ever. I've had interactions with you like through Facebook Messenger, nice as ever. So it's like, oh, that's why he knew these fucking scumbags were ripping off fighters.
You know what, man? Honestly, that's people that don't know me. You know, they say certain. And listen, I can be a bit of an a-hole, but it's not without reason. And look, I've been in business for myself for 25 years. And you know, if you're too nice, people take advantage and walk over you and rip you off. And it's happened to me dozens more times than I can count. Yep. But then when you're stern and you're strict, you're an asshole. So it's like, what's the balance? And so, you know, if I hear something, and I'm not exactly sure of the scenario you mentioned, but if I'm in a situation where I'm unsure, or I have my guard, or I'm unaware, or I've heard certain things, I'm not coming in there like to be taken advantage of, right? And usually, like, my biggest problem is I'm very empathetic. So like I look out for others, you know, and I take, especially fighters, man, like those guys don't make money. They're putting their body and everything on the line, and some scumbag is going to try and take advantage of them or rip them off. I mean, that's why I started Substance Cage Combat initially, was to give fighters a fair and equitable opportunity to train and fight and have opportunity. I never did the fights to make money. If I broke even, that was my goal, which is
right.
To say that as a business person kind of sounds silly, but you know, it wasn't about that. I was like, I just care if I break even.
Yeah, man. SCC was dope. Those dope events too. That was I liked what was going on with those. And speaking to you back then, right? Like you seemed like you really had a plan together. And when you get into the regional level of shows, there's so many fucking slime balls, or people that have it misconstrued. They think, you know what, I'm going to put a fight card together. Next event, I'm going to be Dana White. No, you're fucking not. That's not how this shit goes. Not at all.
You know what? I did have some dreams. I had some plans to do more, and to be honest with you, and I can say it now, and I would have said it back then because I don't need to bite my tongue, is if I told you the levels of sabotage that Ken Hayashi put me through.
I've heard that from Garnett Ace as well.
Yeah, Garnett will so Ken Hayashi is a master manipulator. The guy should get a Grammy, or not a Grammy, an Oscar. This guy would, and he's so tactical. What he'll do is he'll call you. He won't put it in email. He doesn't do email. So there's no recording or copy of it.
Oh, no documentation.
He'll call you randomly from a private number in the middle of the day, or where you can't catch it. And he'll just say, hey, I'm not approving this fight. And I'm like, yeah, but you already approved it 2 weeks ago, and the fight's in 5 days. Well, I'm not approving it, so you better cancel or find another fighter. The card's off. And this is like 4 days before the card. And then he'll hang up. And so I can't record it. I can't, like, you're just screwed, right?
Yep.
Like, that guy even had the like, I don't care about the guy. Like, I noticed you swear, so fuck that guy. I'd like to find
fuck, swear, say whatever you want, man.
That's a guy, if I see on the street, he'd probably get the shit kicked out of him by me. No, I don't care. I don't care, because
fuck him.
No, listen, the guy did so many, he lies, he backstabs, he would approve a fight, then say he didn't approve the fight because it's not in writing.
Mm-hmm.
But you approved it. Does it say anywhere in writing I approved it? I'm like, oh, here we go. You're going to play games. I had to cancel 4 fights the week before the card.
Nope.
Fuck, man. That last Global Warriors event that Garnett Ace tried to put on, like, that hurt him financially. That put stress on his marriage. I mean, I had Garnett on to talk about it. I became friends with Garnett through helping him, like, promote Global Warriors stuff. And that last one, Ken Hayashi did him so fucking bad. It fucked with his financial livelihood, his marriage, like, it, you know, and something like that, especially once you start losing your marriage and stuff like that, that could drive a person to suicide.
And
Easy,
Garnett's
right? Like
Garnett's
that's
had a,
harsh.
and Garnett's my boy. Me and Garnett go back years. Like me and him are really good friends. And like, look, he's had health issues that, you know, like
Yeah.
we just had a bunch of personal issues that we all go through. And it's just unfair what this guy did. You know, we're putting hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, whatever the numbers of dollars out. We're trying to do something good. We all know we're not getting rich off of local MMA cards.
Yep.
That's an understatement, but yeah.
And then you're sitting there making it harder for us. Like the guy who's charging $1,700 for a knockout bonus. So if I had 10 fights, I had to pay an $850 knockout fight, a bonus an $850 knockout fee. He would charge me per fight. It was $1,700. So I said to Ken one day, I go, so if I have 10 fights, I have to pay $17,000 in knockout fees in case somebody gets knocked out. He goes, yeah. I said, so I said, but how do you, I said, and you have to pay it up front 2 weeks before the fight. I said, but you're charging me on the assumption that every fight has a double knockout.
Yeah. That's fucking ridiculous.
Well, if you don't like it, then you don't have to fucking do the card. I don't give a shit. That's the rules. If you don't like it, fuck it. Bro, I have contacts within the government. Okay. I tried to get him booted. I went to people that write policy and procedure. I went to people that work in this office. They were like, Neil, the guy's untouchable. He had a lifetime position there, and he had influence over people that were his superiors because he was there longer than them. And here's the thing that he did. I'm not a dumb guy. I'm not the smartest guy, but I'm not a dumb guy. What he did is this, guys. He did just enough to tell his superiors that he's approved fights, but not enough to make it an economical driver for the province. So he would approve 3 fights a year. And they would take that and he would go and report and say, well, I approve 3 fights a year. It's not my problem. Nobody wants to do the fights. Nobody is coming up. But what he doesn't tell his bosses is he won't approve fights this month because he goes to Florida. He doesn't approve fights on these weekends because he doesn't want to do long weekends because he goes away to his boat in Oakville.
Holy shit.
And that, so he would, so he would do all these tactics. And I sat there and I said, listen, at the end of the day, the province cares about one thing, revenue to the province. So if there's taxes that are, you know, coming from revenue streams that go to the province, he did just enough to say, well, we made $100,000 this year from fights, which covers his salary. He had one assistant, a girl named Catherine. And he was like, nobody seems to want to be able to do this right. He would kind of be able to use that. And then, and like, dude, even the UFC, you know what he did to the UFC? They sent him, I know this, don't ask me how I know, but I know.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
They sent him medicals from Quebec for French fighters when they were fighting in Ontario. He refused to accept them, says, get them to me in English.
What the fuck? Seriously, in Canada, a country full of French-speaking people. When you go to school here, you learn fucking French in school.
It's our language. It's and the thing is, you're a month out from like $1 million UFC card, and you're kind of like, well, do we play this game or do we just get it in English because we don't have time, right? Or we might be done a fight. And he had that influence. Like, listen, the one thing I'll give the cocksucker is,
I love this.
He is consistent. He'll consistently fuck with everybody, right? And you'll notice something. There's been no Bellator card here in 5-6 years because the matchmakers and guys from Bellator refused to come back to Ontario as long as he was commissioner.
That's the fucking shame too. Bellator put on some great events.
Did you know that there's a rule?
Rama.
Let me ask you a question. Do you know the rule about the gauze on your hands?
No.
Okay, so when you tape your hands before you fight, whether it's boxing or MMA, right?
Okay.
So he had a rule. Okay, you could only use, I believe it was like 1 roll of gauze per hand. Okay.
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 Yeah.
Well, listen to this. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
You think Brock Lesnar has the same size hand as Demetrius Johnson?
Oh yeah, I never even thought about that. I was wondering where you're going with this. No shit, eh?
There was absolutely no rhyme or reason to half the things he discussed. And if you asked him, just asked him, you were challenging him. Even if you said, listen, Ken, I just want to know, this guy's 250 pounds and his hand is like 4 times the size of that guy. You can wrap guys 20 times around this guy's hand, but this guy can only get it around twice. Should we not be allowed more? Hey, if you don't like to, I'll cancel the fight right now. Are you questioning me?
Holy shit, eh? He was a fucking nightmare. I've heard lots of horror stories but not like some of the things you're going over right now.
I'm telling you details because you know what? So many people were scared to say anything. At the end of the day, I'm not. Even if he was the commissioner right now, I would still say it because I don't give a shit. And that guy, what he would do though, so this is where he would be just eloquent. This guy was so genius. You'd go to see him in his office. And he would start making jokes and you'd think, wow, this guy's a really nice guy. Everyone says he's a dick, but maybe he just likes me because those guys are unprofessional. Maybe he just understands, because I'm an events guy. I've been running events across Canada for 25 years. I'm not going to lie to you. I walked into his office and I thought, well, maybe I've done events for 20, 30,000 people. I can deal with this shit. No problem. He gave me all the rules. I said, no problem. I'll pay the fighters 2 weeks in advance. No problem. I want to make sure they get paid too. I agree with that. No problem with this. No problem with that. Whatever you need, whatever you want. I'll even get professional guys that are going to do drawings for you, mock-ups. I'll do everything you want. Oh, that's great. That's great. And just when you think like, yo, this guy's my guy, he'll demand to do a venue walkthrough in person and he'll complete, because there's no videotape, there's nothing. And he'll just completely rip the place apart and say you have to redo everything. And you're like, the event's in 4 weeks, bro. What do you mean? You already approved it verbally when I sent it to you on an email last week and now we're doing a walkthrough and you completely changed everything? Yeah. And why are you dictating where my chairs go? As long as they're away from the cage and the ring, do you care where my chairs go? Like he would just find things to mess with you. And then think about it, like you're trying to promote an event. You're trying to market an event. You're trying to like get corporate sponsors. You're trying to like deal with fighters that fell out because they're having, they got injured. You're trying to replace matches. I mean, I had a team of 5 or 6 people, but I mean, they cost money and I needed to work on, budgets where I couldn't afford to pay 20 people to work. Yeah. You just made it really difficult. You made it really difficult. And nobody's going to care because he's gone and it didn't drive a lot of revenue for the province. But if you look at the amount of fights that are happening in Ontario since he retired, it went up automatically, 4 times in 1 year. It went from 3 fights a year to like 10.
Yeah, he was a fucking nightmare. And I heard it from fighters, promoters, anyone who worked within there. I'm sure you knew Alex Pecker-Gassett is, right?
Pecker's my boy.
Pecker. Yeah, right. I was pretty sure you knew Pecker. And now he works within the commission. And it's funny because last time I saw him, it was at BTC that was at the Kitchener Auditorium. Yeah. And I ran into him there and we're shooting the shit for a few minutes. And I was like, oh, Ken Hayashi's gone. And Pecker was like, oh, Ken had a lot to do. And I'm like, what the fuck? Your tune changed? Pecker for years was on a mission to fucking kill that guy. And it's not like, he was like, praising Ken Hayashi or anything, but he just didn't have the hate in his heart that he once did.
It's weird, man. I don't know. It was just really unfortunate that a lot of people for no reason lost out on opportunities because of this guy. And it's really unfortunate that he got away for 20 plus years, just ruining people's lives and livelihood. Like I heard, like you mentioned Garnett, I heard stories where he would just didn't care. Like guys would lose like 50 grand, 100 grand and he didn't give a shit. Like imagine and let me explain to you guys because I'm giving you detail. The way he'll screw you is this. I will have fighter A versus fighter B. One guy's from Kitchener, one guy's from Ottawa. Okay, I'll pay you guys a couple $100 extra to drive into the city. He'll cancel the fight like a week out because the winner, I'll give you an example. Like the winner of that fight has got a good chance of getting a Bellator or UFC contract. So it's like, two borderline guys in the winner. Like I'm using an example only, but Adrian Woolley versus Alex Ricci. Okay. So they're on the cusp of signing. And he'll call me. He's like, I'm canceling this fight. So now, what do you got to do? Who's going to fight Adrian Woolley with 1 week's notice? Or
Alex Ricci?
Guess who's going to fight them? Some guy in Mexico. Or some guy in Brazil. Right? Yeah. And that's the only way you save the fight. And Alex, by the way, and Adrian, by the way, sold 200 tickets. So if I don't replace that fight, I have to refund those 200 tickets. So then I got to buy 2 guys in from Brazil or from Mexico. And I did it. I had to, if you look at my cards, you'll see I flew guys in from other countries because I had to replace the original fights. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wait a second. I just spent $4,000 to pay the fighter. I paid $4,000 for flights. I had to get this. I had to get that. I just paid $12,000 for one fight to save it so I could keep these 200 tickets from having to be refunded a week before. It's just like, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
No shit, man. And that's the last thing, like, it's the last thing you need. Like you just said, you're trying to get corporate sponsors, deal with fighters that pull out for legitimate reasons, right? They hurt themselves in training, whatever it may be. You already got that shit to deal with. Plus, let's not forget, you also have a company to run. You have a life to deal with, everything else. You don't need that shit added on top, right? Like, because sooner or later, and Ken must know this, right? Sooner or later, a person's going to say, fuck this, it's not worth it.
I literally, my
And
phone,
walk away.
my phone's ringing right now. My buddy, he's like, he throws a bunch of boxing cards. Lee,
Okay.
Lee Baxter. Yeah, Lee is literally calling me on the phone like right now as we're talking. He could tell you stories too, but like, you know, that was the reason why I stopped doing fight cards originally. Was I was like, wait a second, I'm like 37, 38 years old. I've got 2 young kids. I've got other businesses, and that was the thing that people don't realize. I have other businesses I ran. I had a gym that I own. I have my main company, which is Substance Group. I was taking time away from those businesses and helping them grow to focus on a fight card because I had 100 grand invested in this fight card that was coming up in 2 weeks. I needed to save it. So now I'm stressed out. I'm not focusing on my day-to-day job that's paying my bills. And then it affects that part of your life. So when you mentioned Garnet and his health and his relationship and I get it. Like, I get it. I mean, my relationship was already strained with my ex anyway, so who gave a shit? But it was more like my kids and my own mental health and my sanity. And I was like, this is not right. I'm doing all this for nothing. Like, I didn't even want to make money, but now I'm going to lose money. Like I ended up losing like, I don't know, like 15 grand my second fight.
Bam.
Like I actually broke even on my first fight. And that was like, whoa, break even's good on your first event. I was prepared to lose up to $10,000 on the first fight. We actually broke even. So if you remember, I was like, yo, I want to do another fight right away. This is great, blah, blah, blah. I felt the energy. And then I think when Ken realized like, oh, this guy wants to do more, he's like, I'm not going to have that happen. Because 3 months later, whatever it was, I did another fight and it just became a whole other nightmare. And I was like, you know what? I can't do this. It's not fair to me or my family, you know? So I just stopped.
And like you said too, you got Substance Group, you got your family, you got everything else that's going on, and you said you're taking time away from it, but you couldn't necessarily take time away from it. You're just adding more to the shit you already have to do. Yeah, right? There's only so many hours in a fucking day, and you're like, you know, you're a main component with these things you're speaking on. So you can't just be like, you know what, I'm gonna step away from substance for fucking 12 months or 8 months, right, to go do this fight thing and then come back. No, you're stacking on top, and the headaches just keep coming.
And my whole thing was, I never had dreams of being the next Dana White. I wasn't trying to take this across Canada. It was, mainly the real reason was because I had a bunch of young fighters in my gym that were studs, and they weren't getting the opportunity. And like, because fighters, like a lot of promoters are not going to fly a kid who's 0-0 to Calgary or to Vancouver, let alone to Montreal. And they're only going to bring you in if you're going to fight one of their guys who's going to beat the shit, like who's 5-0. So we were like, man, there's nothing happening here. So that was, if you'll notice that a lot of my fights, it was guys that had less than 1 or 2 fights, and a lot of them were from my gym. And I was like, let's get them to fight against other guys in the city, right? And let's just kind of build like a community. Now, I'll tell you in all fairness, because I don't want to put it all on Ken Hayashi, half the gym owners are full of shit themselves, because they would say that they would help sell tickets if I put their fighters on, and I would put their fighters on, and I would give them 50 tickets, and then they would lose the tickets, or they didn't sell any tickets, or they'd show up saying they sold 40 tickets. And then at the night, I would try to collect the tickets the week before. We couldn't get a hold of them. The night of the fight, they'd show up with the tickets, and they only sold 10. Yeah, sorry, I didn't sell the rest. And I'm like, dude, I could have sold those 40 tickets.
Yeah.
So I half the gyms, and some of them are my friends, they didn't really come back and help us the way they said they would. And I never expected them to. I'm a promoter by heart, but don't tell me if I put your guy on, don't say to me, put my 2 guys on, and I guarantee you I'll sell 50, we'll buy 50 tickets, we'll sell them. And then the night of the fight, you give me back 40 of the tickets and you sold 10.
And what are you supposed to do with them at that point? You know what I mean? Try to get the word out the last 15 minutes before the event starts to get rid of those 40 tickets, right?
And
you're fucked.
The other thing that people don't realize is 75% of the tickets are sold by friends and family of the fighters.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Like local MMA and even local boxing, it's not like you have people standing on the internet looking for the upcoming local MMA card, let alone knowing where to go for that stuff. So you got 75% of the people that are there because their friends are fighting. So when a third of the fighters, the managers or their gym are not selling the tickets for you at $25, $30, like I wasn't charging $100, $30, $40 a ticket.
Yeah.
Then you're trying to sell 1,000 tickets and 300 tickets get returned to you like within the last couple of days. How are you going to sell those, right? So it was a tough gig between not getting the support that you were supposed to get, you know, and I lost a couple relationships from it because I don't bite my tongue. And I told those guys afterwards, I said, you and I will not work together ever again. I'm like, you screwed me.
Yeah, especially once they show you their colors like that once, right? It's fucking what's the point? They've been unreliable, they've been undependable, and why would you screw yourself again like that and put yourself right back in that same position?
You know, yeah, some guys just don't think big enough, or they don't think like that. I was like, listen, it is what it is. You know, I'm fortunate. I have other businesses. I had the money to lose. I'm not saying that to sound conceited. I'm not
No,
rich.
it's just truth.
I'm not rich. I'm just saying, you know what? I was prepared to lose a little bit. I lost a little more than I should. I didn't lose too much. I did have a lot of corporate sponsors that helped me, but you know, I had a couple of TV deals with some relationships I had. But yeah, like at the end of the day, I'm like, thank God I had those relationships, because you're right. If I was like Garnet, who may not have had those, I don't know. Or if I was like another promoter who's just trying to do something good and help, I would have been out like another 30 grand.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that could ruin your life. Somebody who's not prepared to take that much of a hit, it's going to take a long time to come back from that. If your starting point is 30 grand in the hole, you got a lot of fucking digging to do if you got, you know, nothing else for support financially, right? To get yourself out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first SCC event. There was something up with the Wi-Fi, and I came to you, I think it was, and said something. I'm like, yo, the live reporting I was going to do and everything else I can't do because of the Wi-Fi. And I said to you, would you like me to get my media pass back and then buy a ticket because I still want to stay? And you were like, no, fuck that. You know, I promoted the show through my podcast at the time. I was doing recap show the following week, and you were like, no. Fuck that. Enjoy the show. Stay here. So you don't seem like a difficult guy to deal with if somebody comes to you and they're straight up.
Listen, I'm 45 and I've been in the sports and entertainment industry for 25 years, and not everybody's going to like me, but nobody can say that I ripped them off or owe them money or have done bad business. So I understand that that's just part of, like, you know, not everyone's going to be your fan, and I've accepted that a long time ago.
Yep.
You know what, man? I don't sweat the small stuff, and I just try to be ethical and do good. And you know, like at the end of the day, people are just, not everyone's going to dig your vibe. You just deal with it. I have my own charity that I started years ago. I do a job fair for people with autism. It's the only one in the world. I spent tens of thousands of dollars of my own money to subsidize this. I spent hundreds of hours putting together, and I still get people calling me out. And I'm thinking, you're calling me out. Well,
nothing's good enough.
Well, right. Yeah, I'm like, wait a second. I don't even have a connection personally to autism. I don't have a family member with it. I had a friend whose son had it, and I just thought of this cool idea. So I found out there was an 86% unemployment rate for people with autism. Wow. I found out there was all these, you know, but like 80% of them can actually work. So I went out and I called Apple and Microsoft and Rogers and Bell and all these big companies, and I got them on board, and I reached out to all these autistic service providers, and I got them all on board, and we've got hundreds of jobs for people, and I do it out of the kindness. Like, there's no motive here. It's not even branded, nothing. And I still get every year 3 or 4 people coming at me for something, and I'm like, you just can never please everybody.
No shit, eh?
As long as
I'm doing good, you're giving back, you're giving people opportunities, you're helping out the less fortunate, you're still a fucking asshole. Yeah,
you know what? So at the end of the day, I stopped giving a shit about what people thought, except those people that are close to me or that I care about their opinion. Yep. And as long as I can go to bed at night knowing that I'm not a bad person, I'm good.
If we spoke on some experiences here in your combat sports stuff, but I know obviously a big part of your marketing promotion over the years and events you've been putting on has had to do with the music industry. Is the music industry just as slimy, worse, better than the combat sports industry? Worse.
Yeah, worse.
Oh, yeah. Why? What? Like, give us, not necessarily you have to give us stories, but what makes it worse?
Well, I guess it's funny because it's well, Cardi B, it's funny. I was just thinking, she actually made a comment about a year ago, and she said, you could Google this comment, but she said, the music industry is worse than the streets.
Fuck, it's that bad.
There's a reason why I left the music industry. Like, I didn't leave because I wasn't making money. I left when I was doing my thing. I mean, I toured Justin Bieber, Drake, the Black Eyed Peas, Lady Gaga, Chris Brown, Rihanna, Akon, you name it. I did festivals for 20,000 plus people. I was getting flown to the Grammys. I got musicians shouting my name on their albums. Like I was doing my thing.
That's so dope. That's so dope. Fuck.
But I was genuinely, and I'll tell you guys a funny story. So during the pandemic, all my businesses kind of stopped for a little bit. And I got something for the first time I hadn't gotten in a long time, which was literally time. I had time. Right?
Okay.
I, you know, even if I was on vacation with my family or Disney World, my phone was still ringing. I was still texting. I was still checking my emails. But for the period of 2 months, everything just stopped. 3 months just stopped. So I sat there and I was like, listen, I'm like, this sucks. But I've had a pretty good run as since I started, my businesses in the last 20 plus years. And I'm like, at some point there was going to be a setback, and now this is it. And now this is how I have to figure out how to deal with these challenges. That's what you do. You overcome obstacles. So I sat there and I was like, you know what? Financially, I'm going to figure this out. I have some money. I'll have to deal with it. So whatever. I sat there for a couple months. I started learning about mental health. I started teaching a course on mental health. I started taking courses on mental health, not for me, but for other reasons. Not personally for me, but for other, reasons with family members. I wanted to better myself. I started reading books again. I learned how to meditate. I started doing all this shit. And I read this book, and this book is called The Compound Effect. Okay. And there was this, I can literally count on my hand how many times I've sat there stunned, like, whoa, this is like, what the hell just happened? So when I was in the music industry, when I was in the nightclub industry, when I was running all the big nightclubs and doing 3,000-4,000 people every year, when I was 24, 25, I was grossing like $7-8 million a year.
Holy shit.
Now,
That's on them.
Now, no, but I want to be clear, guys. This is not me. I'm not rich, and this wasn't going in my pocket. My expenses were almost as high, but I'm just saying, like, I was able to carve out enough of a life to live and pay my bills, but I was running 3,000 people on Friday, 3,000 people on Saturday. We were grossing, stupid money every week at the door. We were bringing in artists. We would also reinvest money into our events, like killing it, right? And I'm 22, 23, 24. And then I went into the music industry and I started doing tours across Canada, and I'm rolling into every city, and people wanted to be my best friend across Canada and throwing nice gifts at us and red carpet and all these things. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying that through all this, I never drank. I'm not a drinker and I don't do drugs. Haven't done it. No real reason, but it runs in my family. And I was like, you know what? I got to kind of be careful because I think the addiction gene runs in my family. So I was like very cautious not to get into that. But the one thing that I did, and I'm not proud of this, is I got in a lot of fights. I was angry all the time.
Okay.
And it's not hard to find a fight in a nightclub, right? And it's not hard.
It's easy.
It's right. And it's not hard.
It's easy.
And I didn't know, and I never started. I want to be clear. I wasn't going in looking for a fight, but I was just waiting for a guy to step in my shoe and tell me I'm to fuck off. And it was like, all right, cool. Thank you for giving me a reason to punch. So I was getting in these fights in the nightclubs, and I didn't know why. And I would go home, and think about it, guys. I'd go home 23, 24, 25 years old. I'm making all this, not me personally, but doing great with the business and just having a good life. But I was angry. I was upset. And I didn't know why. And then when I was doing these concerts, I had the same sort of thing. Why am I so angry all the time? And I didn't know why. Well, I read this book called The Compound Effect a year ago, and it blew my mind. Okay. The reason I wasn't happy is because those industries never aligned with my values. Okay. So when I realized that, it made sense as to why I wasn't happy. And I'll tell you why they didn't align with my values. Everybody's out to fuck you. They'll fuck you for $1, bro. Yeah. Everybody's out to fuck your girl. You bring your girl to the club, guys are checking for your girl. Bouncers are bouncers are in the back beating up your friends. The bartender's ripping off your friends and charging them double for drinks that they didn't order. The owner's trying to shortchange you every weekend because you didn't hit the numbers. But the nights that you exceed the numbers, he still doesn't want to pay you what you're worth. Your DJ fucks off because he goes to everybody was out to get you. And I want to be fair. I want to be fair. There's maybe 5 or 10% of people that are decent in that
good
industry.
People. Yeah.
But 90% aren't. And they're not ripping you off for $1 million. If you're going to fuck me, take me for $1 million. Don't take me for $100.
Yeah. No shit, dude.
No, dude, that happened every week. I would bring in a promoter because he wanted to do his birthday, or a kid who'd want to do his birthday. And I would incentivize him. I'm like, yo, if you bring like 100 people, I'll pay you a couple $100. This is like 15. And the kid would bring like 10 people, man.
Oh.
Yo, man, I brought 200 people. You should pay me $500. And I'm like, oh man. I'm like, how do I tell you fucking brought nobody and you have no friends? If you brought 200 people, then why are you at a booth with 5 people right now and no one else? Like, let's not play this game. Oh, Neil's an asshole. You know, so the thing is, those industries, you know, you're around a lot of just negative shit, you know, and a lot of bad people and a lot of vultures, and no one's really your friend. And when the drinks are gone, no one's at your booth, or like when you can't do something for them. So it was a lot of that, and it just didn't align with who I am as a person, you know. And now I moved into the marketing space, and you know, I get to decide the team I work with. I get to decide the clients I work with. I get to decide on the campaigns and programs I work with. You know, don't get me wrong. There's people, there's douchebags in suits that try to fuck me all the time. I mean, I literally just had a client screw me for $7,000 2 days ago. Right now, they didn't screw me. They just don't want to compensate me for the time we put into a project. So I don't want to sit there and act like this world is not like has its features, but it's nowhere near the toxicity. Like, dude, I remember I was doing a J. Cole tour, and the piece of shit agent, I'm literally the same room I'm in. It was a Wednesday night, and we had to pay J. Cole $500,000 for like 4 shows or something like that at the time. And he calls me at 10 o'clock. The guy was in LA, this agent. It was 10 o'clock on a Wednesday night. I'm sitting here, and my kids had to be about 6 or 7 years old, 7 or 8 years old. And he goes, yo, man, I confirmed it. And this agent, by the way, is notorious for telling you something, and then when you get the contract, it's different. So, and I had learned that the hard way with him. So, but he's a high-powered agent in the music industry. And by the way, like, agents are the biggest pieces of shit in the earth. And
Okay.
Thank you for the tip. I would love to line them up and just start popping them all. Like, that's my dream, is to find one of them and just knock them out. But like, this dude calls me and goes, you need to wire $250,000 into our account tomorrow, or you're not getting the tour. And I was like, dude, it's 10 o'clock on a Wednesday. You just verbally confirmed it. And I'm not sending money till I get the contracts in the morning so I can review them, sign them, and have them countersigned. And this guy and I had like a 6-7 year relationship. So it wasn't like he just met me.
Yeah.
He proceeds to berate me, calling me a fucking bitch, a fucking goof, fuck you, you're a motherfucker, you're a piece of shit.
Whoa.
All over not wiring $250,000 without a signed contract. And this is like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, dude, I'm a family man. I got my kids, I got responsibilities, I have business, and I'm being berated like this. Like, that's not good for your health. Like, that's not, well, you don't talk to human beings like that.
Exactly. Unless you're, you know, some punk ass teenager, but as a grown man doing business that involves numbers like that, you can't be on the phone saying you're a bitch. Well, what kind of fucking businessman acts like that?
And I said, and listen, I was like, so I'm yelling and screaming. And then I was just like, listen, I'm like, bro, I go, you're a bully in your office in LA. But one day if I see you, it's on site. I told him, I threatened him. And I said, and I said, you know what? And I said, you know, and I know that if you were in front of me, you wouldn't talk to me like this. So be a man and talk to me on the phone the way you would talk to me if I was in front of you. Right.
Yep.
And it just got to the point where I couldn't deal with these people. Like, you would give people, even the artists and their management, you know, you would give them like all this money. They get into, you know, because I was responsible for everything. When you landed in any city, I was responsible for your ground transportation, your meals, the venue, the production, the hotel rooms, the flights, the tour, anything. If everything went right, there was not a thank you. But if one thing went wrong, like if I got you 9 hotel rooms and there was 8 suites instead of 9, holy shit, we're not performing tonight. We asked for 9 suites. And you're like, hold on a second. The 9th suite will be ready in 2 hours. They're still cleaning the 9th suite. No, that's too bad. That's not what, like, just like, it was such a thankless job. And look, I'm a big boy. I can deal with that. We're not friends. I get it. Like, we're not friends. We're here to do business. But like, it was just absolutely like no quality of life. It's not good for your health. Like, it's not good at all. Artists would show up when they want. I remember I did a tour at the Game in 2005. He went on late an hour every day just to fucking be a dick. And I would have to pay a fine of an extra $10,000 each show because he would go over the curfew.
Oh my God. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh no. So every venue, I'll tell you guys something that people don't know, and you'll notice this, and it very rarely is not a thing, but the odd time it happens. There's an 11 o'clock curfew for venues. So if you notice, Whenever you go to a festival, whenever you go to a concert venue, arena, stadium, whatever, the shows are done before 11 o'clock.
Well, unless they're
Holy
pulling in enough
shit.
money that they don't give a fuck about paying the fines, which is plenty of them.
Which happens, you're right, but it's still a rarity because sometimes the fines can be like stupid. But 95% of the time, the shows end by 11, lights on, get out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You will literally have artists look at you and be like, yeah, get the fuck out of my room, because if you come in here again, I'm not going to perform tonight. So now it's 10 o'clock and he hasn't gone on, and he was supposed to be on at 9 o'clock. And now he just feels entitled to fuck with you. How about the time I booked Tyga to do a show in Halifax, and he refused to do any marketing, and the show wasn't selling as well as we had hoped. We were hoping to sell 1,500 tickets. I think we sold 700 or 800 tickets. He refused to do any marketing. I get a call from his manager, Jay Irving at the time, and he was like, Neil, we have to leave Halifax at 9 p.m. We have a flight because we got to be in the States tomorrow. I'm like, 9 o'clock, you have to fly out. So you got to be at the airport by about 8 o'clock. I'm like, so what time is he going to go on? Well, he wants to go on at 7 p.m. I'm like, the fucking doors open at 7 p.m., dude.
Fuck.
So
Holy shit.
So I was like, you know what? I'm like, okay. I said, I'll tell you what, meet me halfway. Do some marketing for the show. Do a radio interview. Do a video drop so I can try to get some ticket sales.
Fucking tweet one time.
Yeah.
He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it, Amy.
Freaking Krill, who my co-host, our co-host, who's usually here with us, he's a rapper. Now it's terrifying. And every time someone says my friend is a rapper, I'm like, fuck, I don't want to hear the shit. But he's actually dope. He's been making music with some names and working on a guy right now that I can't say the name because I don't want to spoil anything. But now it's getting to the point. He rapped in Russian all of his life. And about a year and a half ago, he switched to English. He's put out 2 projects since then. And now it's I don't do music at all. I don't speak that fucking language, but I help him with everything that doesn't have to do stuff with the music. Now, he really wanted to be here for this, but with everything going on in Ukraine, I'm sure you can understand why he can't be here, right? It's like now when he's looking at artist development and he's going out and he's trying to make these contacts just to see who's who and what's what. How the fuck do you cipher through the bullshit and what's legit, right? Because he reaches out to some people, and there's certain people I know within the music industry. I've been like, hey, yo, have you heard of this person? And they're all like, no, I haven't heard of that one, or I haven't heard of this one, whatever it may be. And all of them are like, yo, do extensive research on anything, artist development, management, any of that fucking shit. What advice would you have for someone like Krill or, anyone in his position?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, realistically, you kind of just nailed it. It's like, do your research. The problem is there's a lot of hustlers out there, and they know to tell you, they know how to sell. They know how to sell you bullshit. And, these are professional hustlers who can sort of BS their way and they see that you're excited. And everybody's all, oh my God, I met this guy. He knows so-and-so. He worked with this guy. Or you know what? These guys know how to get the pictures with the right artists. So they go, look, man, that's my boy. See, I'm in a picture with this guy, and they can sell it, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day, I got to be honest. Like, I literally this happened to me about 6 months ago. There was a guy there's a local rapper here in Toronto. Apparently, I don't know his name, but he's popular now. He's got a song with Drake. Okay. And one of my guys was telling me about him. He was like, yeah, he got some call from some guy in the US from Def Jam. He was saying this, that, and the other. And he's an A&R. So I called the VP of A&R for Universal in the States, who's a friend of mine, Steve, Steve. And I was like, yo, can you just tell me if this guy's legit? He was like, never heard of this guy.
Uh-huh.
And this was the vice president of A&R for Universal Music. And the guy that I was asking to validate said he worked in the A&R department in Universal, right? Mm-hmm. So, these guys know how to talk a game. I got to be honest, like my really only advice is, do your due diligence. We live in a time right now where you have more access to information than ever before. It's not hard to Google somebody. It's not hard to validate somebody. And to be really honest with you, people need to really just be willing to ask the questions like, I need a reference.
That's the first thing I said. I'm like, give me a list of references, not your buddies. Give me legit references. And I don't want to text someone. I want a phone number. I want an email address, and I don't want it to end at gmail.com.
Or who can I call? Or who can I call from the record labels or from this company or this group that will verify you? Give me their contact or tell me their names, and I'll call them myself. Don't give me a fake number. I'll call one of your friends who's going to pretend he's so and so.
Exactly.
Because these guys do that, man. Like, there's guys out there that that have, you know, been sued for millions because they misrepresented themselves, but they take these young up and coming artists money, you know, I'm going to do all this, pay me that. I'll put you on here, you know, all this stuff. It's hustle, right? So, I mean, the only benefit, one of the few benefits that we have, or sorry, one of the many benefits we have with the internet, I apologize, is that, you know, we have access to things now. You can literally do some research and go down a rabbit hole, or just type in a guy's name and type in the word fraud, like literally like so-and-so fraud.
Yeah.
And sometimes things will come up. I've done it a million times.
There's this one guy that Krill's been talking to recently. He says that he's an A&R for Cash Money and Rich Gang. He's done work for Lil Wayne, and the list goes on and on and on. It's all in an email. I can't find a single thing about this guy on Google. Now, I talked to Corey Sharon, battle rapper. He's on Wild 'N Out and everything. He's a good friend of mine.
I know. He's dope. The kid from Ottawa, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I talked
By
to
the
Sharon.
way,
Also autistic.
Autistic. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever make contact with him last year?
He came to my office. Well, he came to, was it you and I that was talking about it last year? He came to my.
Yeah. I saw you were doing a fundraiser, and I reached out to you, and I was like, hey, I might have a guy for this that
I would like to talk to you again, actually. I would like to talk to you.
No problem. I can set that up.
To be honest, he came to my office with some of the King of the Dot guys, and it had nothing to do with me, but there was issues on their end, and it was weird. So I just
was that last year?
Oh, like 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that wasn't for the autistic thing you were trying to do last year?
No.
Okay, yeah.
We were gonna. Yeah.
If you want to be hooked up with him again, like I said, it's no problem. I can connect you guys, no problem. I talked to Sharon last year, and I talked to you about it for the autism fundraiser thing. I think it was a job fair thing you were doing.
Yeah, it was a job fair. I want to, you know, it's coming up April 8th, so the time is good now. I'd love to figure out.
Perfect. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. Because when I talked to him, friggin', and unlike Ken Hayashi, I actually have documentation of it. Sharon was like, "Fuck yeah, I'd love to do it. Tell him to hit me up. Send him my number." So yeah, no, that's not a problem at all. But what I was saying is, yeah, when I asked Sharon about it and some other people, but Sharon especially, Sharon's like, if this guy is an A&R for Rich Gang and Cash Money Records, and he did this work with Lil Wayne and all this shit, he'd be all over Google. Nobody hides their credentials like that, right? If that was legit, he'd say, here's my credentials, check them out, verify them, I'm legit, do what you want. Not just send an email with a list of fucking things saying you did them. And I also said to Krill too, I was like, you know what? Even say they are true. Now, I could make a list like this too. This guy offers an artist development course, okay? I could say work for UFC, work for Bellator, work for Caesar Palace Gaming Casinos, did analyst work on The Score and TSN. All that shit is true. Doesn't mean I should be teaching a course of journalism. You know what I mean? These places had me on to cover one thing at one time in life. I'm not a fucking journalism professor. So that's another thing too, right? Like, I'm sure I could give someone some game, but I'm not the guy you should be paying fucking $1,000 a month to teach you things.
Well, and I'll be honest, man, like I can't even count the amount of times artists came to me asking me to manage them or asking me to listen to their demo. And I would tell them, I'm like, listen, I need to be clear about something. I'm not an artist manager. I'm a concert promoter.
Yep.
I don't develop artists. I take already established artists and tour them.
Yep.
And I don't have an ear for music. I didn't develop Drake. I didn't develop Justin Bieber. I just worked with them when they were already popular and I toured them. You know what I mean? Like, so there was, I've seen it. Like, I've seen artists beg me to manage them. I've seen artists literally willing to throw money. I've had artists come at me begging me to just put them on. And I'm like, what do you want me to put you on? I tour concerts. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I would get guys coming to my office like daily, with their CDs or their DVDs or their EPKs, like back in the day, like, yo, check out my music, man. And I'm like, what do you want me to do with it? I don't work for the record label. I'm not an A&R. I'm a concert promoter, right? So I even saw it, and I'm not even on that side of the business. I'm not on the record industry side.
Yeah.
Right?
So when you got into this, sorry, go ahead.
That's it. No.
When you got into this, the music promotion shit, did you start right away doing big events?
Yeah. So I got lucky. So when I was doing my original way into all this was I used to promote nightclubs back in the day. And my company was called Mass Appeal Entertainment. And the reason I was called Mass Appeal Entertainment is because I was going out to these black parties, these Chinese parties, these Filipino parties, these Indian parties. and they were all listening to the same music. And sometimes the DJs were the same, but the parties were all segregated.
Okay.
And I realized, because I'm half Indian, my mom's family's from India, right?
Oh,
So,
shit. Okay.
and I grew up in Scarborough in the 80s. So I grew up around Black Filipinos, like most of my high school, elementary schools. So I grew up around a multicultural world. So I sat there one day and I was like, you know what, man? I'm like, I want to bring this all together. Like there's 500 people at this club, 1,000 people at this club, 800 at this club, and they're all going to the same restaurant after, and they all go to the same high school or college, or university. But when it comes to going to the clubs, they're going to different clubs based on their culture. And I would go to these parties and I never felt out of place. I never went into a party where there was, you know, whatever gender, whatever, or race, sorry. And I felt like, oh my God, all eyes are on me. They didn't give a fuck, you know, like, you know, because they walked outside and it was multicultural, but they went into the club. So I went to school for marketing, and I feel like I'm creative. And I was like, I want to appeal to the masses, man, like mass appeal. We appeal to the masses. So my whole thought was, when I do parties, I want to do big parties. I want to run the government and do 3,000 people. I want to do docks and do 3,000 people.
Oh, I miss those places.
So when I ran those clubs, it was because my premise was I would work with all the different organizations and all the promotion companies that cater to those groups. I brought them under one house, right?
Yeah.
So because I was doing 4,000 people every week, celebrities would come to my party. Pharrell would come, when the NBA players would come to my party in the early 2000s when the NBA came to Toronto. And I got to meet people. And I remember Molson and Benson and Hedges and some sponsors used to throw money at us to sponsor because we had an audience. And I started meeting people, and they were like, do you want to do a show at this guy? Do you want to do a show at that guy? And I just jumped into it. And I was doing shows, like I was doing concerts at my parties with like Fabulous and a couple of pretty big artists at the time. And then I got it was just through networking. And then I got an opportunity to do the Sean Paul tour because I was managing a DJ named Baby U. And I was getting to know, so I was his manager for 15 years, and I got to meet all these promoters across Canada. And so Sean Paul's original manager went to school in Montreal. He's from Jamaica, but he went to school in Montreal. And his roommate was a friend of mine. So his roommate from Montreal called me and says, listen, bro, like I got this contract to do the Sean Paul tour, but I don't know anyone in Canada. Can you help me with it? So I put this tour on across Canada, and it was when he blew up. It was when he had, you know, those Give Me the Light and all that.
Yeah.
So my first ever tour that I ever did nationally was the Sean Paul tour and it sold out in 24 hours across Canada.
Whoa,
right?
That must have been a good feeling.
So, oh my God, dude, insane. And it's funny because that was my first real foray into like doing a concert tour. And it was like the first time you try drugs, right? It's like you try to get that high again. Like the floodgates open, and it was like, shit, now you had Fabulous, Ludacris calling you, this guy calling you, that guy calling you. Remember, BET came out, so 106 and Park was a thing. So then I started calling artists. Next, you know, I'm bringing up Jin from 106 and Park. First time he ever did a show was in Toronto.
Oh, nice.
Like we were part of the culture. Like we were that age. We were there. So like anytime there was an artist that was hot, and it's a small world. So then I would call this guy from New York, that guy from Detroit, this guy from LA. And then it just kind of, and at the time, hip hop was very like, there was nobody in Canada doing it. You either came to Toronto or Vancouver or maybe Montreal.
Yeah, maybe Montreal. I was just going to say that. Yep.
Right? So then I was like, well, fuck that. Because I was touring Baby U, I had guys in Calgary, Edmonton, Saskatoon, Regina, Winnipeg, Halifax. So then I started teaming up with them and doing these tours across Canada. And then I would go to these conferences in the States. Like I got really lucky where you had to be accepted into these music conferences. And I would go, dude, I'm telling you, bro, I'd be sitting next to Jay-Z and he's playing cards with like Lear Cohen.
What the fuck?
And I'm sitting there with Baby U, and there's only like 200 people in the whole room, and T.I. is standing 20 feet from us talking to Lil Wayne. It was insane, bro.
That is fucking crazy.
So I'm out there.
Go ahead.
As a fan, you're going crazy, but like you got to play the role. You got to pretend like you don't care, right? You're just like, right? You're like, oh my God. So, you know, if you're in that room, you automatically earned your stripes in some way, right? So I had a friend of mine who got me into the conference. It was called the Mix Show Power Summit. And I went out and just started connecting with people. And then you bump into a couple artists, you know, and oh, this guy, you know, this guy was here, this guy was there. Oh, that guy remembers me. So then they see that, oh, this guy's legit. And then you're just getting everyone's contact. And then it just blew up. And this back in like the early mid 2000s, like for those of the pre-Drake era, Ludacris, Fabulous, like 106, like that shit was popping. So you weren't paying artists back then $100,000, $200,000 like you are now. You're paying them 10, 20, 30, 40 grand. It was like a lot more affordable.
Wow, that's it.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, it depended on who it was. I mean,
Yeah.
But yeah, and then it's a small world, and then you become Neil Canada, Neil from Toronto, and then you get calls like, "Yo, is Neil from Canada? Yo, I got this," right? And then it just blows up, and you just run with it. So I was really the first national hip hop concert promoter,
Yeah.
Like Jonathan Ramos, who's my boy, he only did Toronto. He didn't do outside of Toronto, right?
Okay.
And G-Man and Rich, they just did Vancouver, and that was just a side gig for them because they actually own like big businesses. So it was like, Ricky D, he just did Montreal. So I brought it all together. What I would like either sell them the show, or I would partner with them on the show, or I would just go in and do the show and pay them to like depended on the deal. But yeah, and I just took it national, and that's how I got into like doing all these concert tours.
What's the biggest price tag you've ever had on or like had to pay for an artist, or know of an artist getting paid to do a show?
I mean, I don't know off the top of I've literally done like over 1,000 shows. So it's really hard for me to think of like what my biggest like personal, like what I paid an artist, but it's definitely like a few $100 grand. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like Rihanna, J. Cole, the Black Eyed Peas, like those guys were 6 figures. Actually, Luda in 2003 was 6 figures. He was 100 grand US, but at the time the exchange rate was like 150 Canadian. I'm trying to think of like, I don't know if there's one artist that stands out where I was like, yeah, that one was the most. But I mean, like I can tell you, like I know for a fact what these guys get paid. I mean, Drake ain't taking less than $1 million on a show, like,
right?
And that's like low end, like a night. Like
man. Like how long of a set? How long of a set would that be?
It depends. I know this. He'll do shows that are like, yo, we want you to do this kind of show, and he'll take $1 million for 60 minutes, bro. And it won't even be a full production. It'll just be him and a DJ and maybe I don't know, like it's a scaled down show. It's not like a tour. It's like if it's like a spot date, which is what they would call a one-time show. He'll do a spot date, and he'll be like, his price will be like $1 million. That's even if he feels it. Like if he's not sure, it'll be like 1.5 US.
Oh man, I am in the wrong line of work.
Yeah.
Holy fucking shit.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like the shit we did, like I had people calling me. This is what I'm saying, man. Like I had dudes calling me up just to do they wanted to, like I had guys call me just to meet with an artist, and they would pay me 10, 20 grand just to meet an artist for half an hour so they could give them the demo. So I'd be like,
connections.
What's that?
Because it's all about connections.
Well, listen, there's guys out there that are, listen, when I did Justin Bieber, I had this guy call me and he offered me $5,000 for his daughter to sing a song before Justin Bieber went on.
Wow.
And I took it straight up. I'm like, the guy was rich. I don't even remember whose daughter was. I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll let your daughter do 2 songs. You pay me $5,000 cash, and she has to go on at 7:30. The shows didn't start till 9. Half that room was empty. I had another guy pay me 20. I had people pay me 20 grand just to open up on tours, and they would pay their own cost across the country. And I never asked for money. Like I never said, you pay me. I never started that. People would offer to me. And I was like, well, what am I, an idiot? Why would I say no?
Oh, shit, you'd be a damn fool to say no.
So it got people were just so anxious or so desperate or just so eager to get on. And it got to the point, Amy, where like people would just say how much to get on. But I was never a guy like that. I always wanted to help develop artists. Mm-hmm. Like you can ask Rochester. I put him on to open up for Kanye West on the College Dropout tour, just because he was my homie, and I was like, yo, you're a dope artist and you've got a vibe going. You just won the flow thing and you're easy to work with. Like I just wanted to put him on. Same thing with my friend JB. Like JB opened up on a bunch of tours for Joel Santana and for The Game and other artists and Busta Rhymes. I never made him pay me. I was like, yo, you're a nice guy. You're easy to work with. You're a good artist. And you're like, it's simple. I want to help you out. But then come like the late 2000s, like 2008, 9, 10, it got to the point where people were calling me from different cities in Canada. And they were just like, yo, I hear you're the guy to do this tour. I'm like, yeah. They're like, listen, I got an artist. How much? It got to the point where I did one show in Toronto and I had 3 partners on the show. And they each, guys, I'm not even joking. Swear on my life. My 3 partners on the show, they're still my friends to this day. They each had 2 artists each that wanted to pay $2,500 to $3,500 each to perform. We were going to make like $25,000 just in opening acts in one city.
Oh, wow.
I had to say no. I said no. I was like, listen, guys, 1 artist each. And I said, and in good faith, just tell them it's $2,500. Let's not try to squeeze these guys. Like $2,500, they'll get to do the Toronto show, and you guys each get 1 artist. So we had 3 opening acts. I never like to do more than 2 opening acts, but we had 3 opening acts this night, $2,500 each. But we could have easily gotten $25,000 in one city just off of opening acts. Like the money just started, people were just willing to throw money.
That's fucking insane. And you mentioned before, you know, you could be somewhere where like, you know, Jay-Z's over there, T.I.'s over there. And if you're inside, right, you're geeking the fuck out, but you got to act right, right? There's a reason you're there. I remember the first time, well, the only time I went to the MMA awards, I worked for a place called MMA Religion at the time. And that outlet got nominated as journalist outlet of the year or whatever, but it doesn't matter. It's always going to be wherever Ariel Helwani is. But fuck it. I was a writer there. I got to go. I'm fucking going. I'm going to have a fucking blast. And once it became time to go there, I remember, I'm sure you know JD Ayres.
That's my guy, bro. I'll tell you a funny JD Ayres story. He's actually one of my favorite artists back in the day for sure.
I think he's the best rapper to ever come out of Canada, man. I've known Era for a long time. He's fucking incredible. But yeah, so I was kind of freaked out, and I asked Era, I was like, yo, so like this is going on, and he's like, there's a fucking reason you're in that room, man. Act like it. Because you're at the MMA awards, everyone is there, right? And I was like, whoa. So have you been in one of those situations though with musicians, and you know, it's like, holy shit, I can't believe there's people around me. And then it goes a step further and you're engaged in a conversation with like a Jay-Z or someone like that.
I'll tell you the dopest story of my life.
Yes, this is what I like.
All right. I was in London, England. I used to work closely with Lupe Fiasco. In fact, the first tour he ever did outside of the United States was in Canada. And on his album, his first album, Food and Liquor, he shouts me out at the end of the album. So I had a good relationship with
I love Lupe.
Yeah, I had a good relationship with him. So he was doing a show out in London, England with Jay-Z, opening for Jay-Z at this place called Royal Albert Hall. My cousin, so my cousin's a big Jay-Z fan. So Lupe, I ended up booking a show with Lupe out in London, England with some guys I knew out there. So my cousin was like, yo, can we go out? Can I come with you? You know, and I'm like, yeah. So I called Lupe and I'm like, well, his manager, Jason at the time. And I'm like, yo, if I rolled out, can you get me 2 tickets to the show? Maybe some backstage ticket. He goes, yeah. He goes, there's just me. We're 3 of us. I'll get you 2 extra tickets. Boom, we fly out to London, England. I get to London, England. I had just done a show a couple of years earlier with Nas. And I somehow get a message from Nas's manager who's having trouble. This is fucked. My cousin works in the cell phone space. And this is back in like early 2000s, mid 2000s. My cousin had grown to have a friendship with Nas's manager over Blackberries back in the day. So Nas's manager had messaged me saying he's having a problem with his phone. He's in London, England, and he needs to talk to my cousin. He needs his number. So I'm like, bro, I'm in London with my cousin. What are you talking about? So long story short, he's 10 minutes away from where we were. We meet up for lunch. So we're sitting at lunch and his manager and Green Lantern are there and they're telling us about, or LES at the time, they're telling us about Nas is in town to perform with Jay-Z that night. So I'm like, wait, I go, what are you talking about? I'm in town, Lupe Fiasco's opening up. They're like, well, some shit's going on and it's really fucking weird. So I'm like, all right, cool. So as I'm doing that, zip zap zoom, I get another message from the VP of the record label who's in town with Rick Ross. And she was messaging me about an event I was doing in Toronto a month earlier. She's like, I'm in London right now. I'll message you when I get back next week. I'm with Rick Ross. We have a show tonight with Jay-Z. So now my head's racing. I'm like, Ross, Lupe, Nas, what the fuck's going on? So now I'm starting to figure something out. LES and Nas's people are like, yo, the sound check was top secret. We weren't allowed to do anything. Something's up. Something's really fucking weird, right? So long story short, not to draw the story up because it actually is the most gangster. It is the most gangster story ever. Okay. I end up just to save a good 10 minutes of the story, I end up getting 2 front row tickets to the show, like dead center. Okay. So we're there and all of a sudden Jay-Z comes out, right? And then Nas comes out. And then I see a guy playing the piano and he had a hood on and I'm like, yo, and it was Chris Martin from Coldplay.
Whoa.
And then he was married to Gwyneth Paltrow. So then she comes out and she can sing. And then Beyonce comes out. So you got Nas, Chris Martin, Gwyneth Paltrow, Jay-Z, Beyonce, all on stage just going off, right? That's not even the best part of the story. So the show ends. And I get a call from Nas's people. They're like, oh, yo, are you hitting the after party? I'm like, what after party? This is the spot. Lupe calls me, yo, you come to the after party. What after party? This is the same after party. So I don't know London. I've only been there for like 48 hours, 72 hours if I'm lucky. I'd never been there before. And if you've been there, there's a lot of alleys and laneways, and we're just like running randomly. And I'm going up to strangers and I'm asking them where this venue is or where this street is. And I was with my cousin, and I had 2 friends from Belgium that showed up, that came in from Belgium to come hang out with us. We're running through the streets, and I lost my cousin and I lost one of my friends from Belgium. Like, I couldn't find them. So I'm running through the streets, my phone's blowing up, and it's Lupe and it's Nas's people. They're like, yo, bro, we can't wait. We're here. Like, we're going in. I finally see the venue, and it's in the middle of this long street, and the street is just like this little laneway, and there's like 1,000 people outside, and I'm sweating, bro. I've been running for like 20 minutes. I'm sweating. I'll never forget. I was wearing army cargo shorts and a white Sean John shirt. And I get to the front of the club, and I'm with one of my friends from Belgium, and the bouncer says, ladies and gentlemen, nobody else is getting in tonight. The club is closed. We're closed. And he goes, except you, sir, hurry up. And he points to me, pulls me in with my boy. So my boy looks at me and goes, yo, what the hell? I go, bro, just keep walking and act like you belong.
Yo.
So as we walk, these 2 models hand us these VIP bracelet things over our neck. We walk in. The club was 2 stories below. So we go downstairs, and the club was a rectangular shape. And it was nothing special. It was just like a little club for like 300-400 people. It wasn't anything crazy. Forget the name of the club. So at the end of the club, when you walk downstairs, at the end, there's a stage. And on the stage is like L.A. Reid, Naomi Campbell. Like, now other celebrities showed up to this after party, right?
Yeah.
Well, obviously the back of the room was kind of empty because everyone was kind of pushed up by the front, but it wasn't a stage to perform. It was the VIP area, right? So my buddy from Belgium was like, yo, bro, like, we got to get up there. And I'll be honest, I was just like, I don't have the energy to fight to get in the VIP. And my cell phone wasn't working because we were 2 stories below ground. And I lost my cousin and his friend. So I'm thinking like, bro, we can't really stick around here much. Like, we got to find our people. Well, my buddy's like, please, let's go, let's go. So I'm like, all right, fine, let's go. As we walk to the VIP, they pull us up. Lupe sees me, Nas's manager sees me, they pull us up in the VIP. Bro, I'm in this VIP that could be no bigger than like your bedroom. You know, maybe a little bit bigger than your bedroom, depending how big it is. And I'm literally rubbing elbows with like just everybody and anybody, like VIP. Like, Jay's looking at me like, you good? I don't know, Jay. You good, man? I'm like, yeah, Jay. So my buddy's looking at me. He's like, bro, what's going on right now, Neil? I'm like, dude,
I don't know.
Then we leave. So after about 10 minutes, we leave. And I'm like, listen, man, I go, look, we got to get back up there. Like, we have no cell phone service. It's not good. So we get upstairs, swear my life, my cousin and my other buddy from Belgium that we lost, they're standing outside, right? And I look at them and I'm like, I told you guys to follow me. Even though none of us knew where we were going, there was no point in not following me, because without me, you weren't getting in. So because what happened is when we didn't know where to go, they thought we were supposed to go left and I went right, and we kind of split up. So anyways, long story short, this is this crazy night. And then just as we're about to walk away from the club, this car pulls up and it goes, excuse me, sir, your car's here for you. I'm like, what the fuck? And this brand new like Mercedes limousine pulls up and drives me back to my hotel. The whole time my friends are like, bro, you got front row tickets to the hottest show. You got a VIP here. You got all this. Like, what the fuck? That was the one time where I was just like, you just act like you belong, bro. Like, just act like you belong, like just go with it.
Yo.
Right.
Oh, guy's insane.
So yeah, that was one of my favorite moments. I mean, the story's crazy. I didn't even tell you the crazy parts. It's too long of a story, but like it got crazy, in terms of during the day. But it was a really one of those moments where you're just like, either I belong here or like act like I belong here. But either way, I was overwhelmed. I was like, holy shit, this is dope, right?
Yeah, man. It's such a crazy experience too, right? Like, how many people can ever fucking say You know what I mean? Obviously not that exact same thing because you'd have to be there that night, but just even shit like that, right? Like it's a great story and everything, but then you're in the VIP, Jay's making sure you're good, a car comes to pick you up. Like, you know, you can change the details, but you're not even going to get close to a fucking story like that. That is such a fucking
I will say that I have been very fortunate with the experiences I've had. Like I mentioned, like I was at the Mix Show Power Summit for 3 years. And for those people that may know that conference, it was 300 DJs and music industry people. And like the whole, back in the day before there was streaming and all that, DJs were the ones that broke artists. So what would happen is all the record labels, Def Jam, Interscope, you know, A&M, Warner, like all of them would put in like a couple $100,000 each. Plus they would fly in all the artists, and like Def Jam would do a showcase on the beach in the Bahamas for like 200 of us. And it would be like Dipset and Kanye and Jay. And there was like 200 of us on a friggin' beach. Like things that you never thought of. You're like, how the hell did I get here? You know, like it was insane that you were being invited to these things. So I've been very fortunate in some of the experiences that I've been able to sort of have. And I don't take those for granted, you know, but you know, you're in those rooms where Jay-Z's playing, literally, my baby, you and I were talking about it a year ago, like Jay-Z, Lear Cohen, and some other guys were playing poker right next to us.
That's so fucking crazy. And
you
know
just
what?
gotta pretend, and you just gotta pretend like you don't give a fuck, but you're really like wanting to play with them. And like, you know,
it's like, you know, Jay is one thing, and I'm not saying one's above the other, but especially when you add Lear Cohen to the mix, right? That's not Jay and Blake. Blake would be cool as fuck, but Lear Cohen, like that guy is, that's a Steve Rifkin type.
Dude, it was just, I mean, like, yeah, those days were crazy back then. That's when the labels had so much money. And I remember one night, so in order to get into this one resort, so every year they moved it to a different Caribbean island, Bahamas, Puerto Rico, Dominican. So one year, I think we were in Puerto Rico, and they would rent out these resorts, and they would seclude them, and they would have security around the resort so nobody could get in because it was very top secret. And then one night they would let us go off the resort, and they would do a showcase in the city, right? They would rent out a venue, and we would do kind of a showcase. And so I remember, you imagine, like, guys, I'm not kidding, this is the funniest story ever. We were at this resort, and you've got all the guys I mentioned, Cash Money, Lil Wayne's there, like just everyone you could think of. Eminem is there performing that night with Dr. Dre for 300 DJs. It was nuts. Like, this is like Google. I've got to Google the Mix Show Power Summit because it ended in 2006 or 7. But at the time, it was the biggest industry thing for DJs. And there was no Canadians there. It was Baby You, me, and a couple other Canadian dudes. Scratch wasn't there. It was really no Canadian DJs. But anyways, we got in. And I remember we were on this resort. Imagine having for 4 days, 300 of these guys I mentioned, and no women.
Oh, dear.
The only women that were there, was like Carrie Hilson was there waiting in line in front of me, telling us that she was signed to Timberland. We didn't know who she was. A year later, it's Carrie Hilson. But like she was there performing, right? And so anyways, unless they were performing, there was no women. So tell me why the Saturday night we get this message that there's a special last minute party. And I forget the guy's name. He was one of the head record label guys from LA, like top dogs. I forget his name. He brought in 200 women from Puerto Rico capital.
That's the biggest pimp in the world.
I will never forget this. Every guy in there was obviously excited. Even before the girls came, they were like, oh, right? Tell me why. All you saw, I swear to God, guys, imagine like 5 or 6 busloads, like Greyhound busloads of the hottest Spanish women being bussed in to party with Jay-Z and all of us. Like, and you didn't even have to be somebody recognizable. If you were in this resort, you were good. You know what I mean? And yeah, like 200 women ended up just showing up the last night to hang because the record label just paid them all hundreds of dollars times 200. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy.
You know, Amy, have you not asked him about a certain guy? I don't know. Amy might be the big. Oh, go ahead, Amy. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Amy might be the biggest Eminem fan in the world. I don't know how she hasn't asked you if you've had any interaction with him yet.
So my interaction with him was very minimal. The only interaction I've had on a personal level is he was at that conference performing, and he was very quiet and secluded to himself.
Right.
So,
yeah.
To be fair, he is the same that I've ever seen on TV and the media. I mean, I don't know much about him, but I know he lives remote outside of Detroit in his little thing. And that's how his vibe was. Wasn't rude, wasn't outgoing, just chill. I didn't go out of and again, you have to belong. So
Right.
I'm a guy like, I'm not going to go up to you unless I have a purpose. I can't just walk up and, yo, I'm a big fan. You know, like I was kind of like trying to.
Right.
It's kind of like, it's kind of like what I tell people with Drake. Like Drake used to call me to put him on shows, and I put him on shows, and him and JD Era opened up for Pretty Ricky, and then Pretty Ricky, and they were being dicks, and they wanted to go on early, so I had to cut Drake's set before he went on. So Drake was there waiting to go on, and I had to cut his set, so he never even performed because Pretty Ricky didn't want to wait for Drake to perform back in 2006. Like, but like, yeah, like M just did his performance. I really don't remember seeing him much other than just kind of being in the cut, just out in the back, popping in.
That's not surprising.
And the only other real interaction I had with M in terms of like, not M, but like I toured D12 and like I knew Proof and Bizarre and all those guys. This was before Proof died. And they got into a really big situation here in Toronto where they got in a massive fight with a bunch of gangsters that I knew. And Proof.
This is a story. Wait, we need to hear this one from the beginning.
Yes.
Well, I did D12 back in like whenever, like their last album, probably. I don't know. I'm guessing, but it was before Proof passed away. And I did this shady. My friend had the shady clothing brand in Canada, and we did a couple shows. I brought D12 in, and everybody. I never lied. I never promised it. I didn't hint it, but everyone thought M was coming on the show.
I mean, he's part of D12, but I digress.
Yeah, well, you're right. Amy's very bitter that he didn't come, but yeah.
Hey, I've seen, I know the D12 guys. I've seen Eminem plenty, but I'm just saying they are kind of a package deal, especially when Proof was still alive.
You're 100% right, but it was always made explicitly clear to me that M will not be coming unless he wants to. But there was like a 1% chance he'd come, and I never wanted to make any promises. So the artwork we had was a templated design they gave us and wasn't on it. So they made it very clear not to make any insinuations, and I didn't. But the show sold out. So after the show, I used to run nightclubs at the same time. It was a Thursday night. I'll never forget this. So I set D12 up at this club I used to run in Toronto called Tonic. And they went out to Tonic. And
you used to run that place?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, go on. I don't interrupt. I've been drunk there many times. I tell you
stories about Drake and when he opened up for the Clips at Tonic back in 2009. So it's funny him and Pusha T have a beef, but he opened up for them. Anyways.
Yo, I didn't even thought about that when you said Clips. Oh, shit, eh? Okay, sorry. Go on. I don't want to ruin.
So anyways, the show was over. We had sold out show. It's 2:00 in the morning, and I'm eating Chinese food on King Street or Spadina with a couple of friends. And I get a call from this like serious gangster dude I know, and he's yelling, but I can't make out what he's saying. So somebody grabs his phone. It's one of his buddies, and he's like, "Bro, where are they staying? Like, where are they staying? They're dead. They're dead. They're dead." And I don't know I had no clue what he's talking about. So he's like, "What happened?"
Wait, what year was this?
When did Proof die?
I'll
tell you why. Because we actually thought I actually thought my friend had something to do with Proof's death, to be honest with you.
Great. Fantastic. Fuck your friend. Go ahead.
Well, he didn't have anything to do with it. So
well, for good measure, anyway.
So whatever year he died, it was like a year or two before he died. I don't know what year, like 05, 06, around there.
Yeah.
So anyways.
He died in 2006, so it was April 11th, but go on.
When did he die?
2006.
So it would have been 05, the summer of 05 that this happened. It was a year before.
Okay.
Within a year of him passing. So anyways, long story short, my buddy went to go say hi to Proof. This guy was a serious dude. And he was just being nice to Proof because this guy actually was one of those gangster guys who want to be in the entertainment industry. So he was like, yo, blah, blah, blah. Proof was drunk. Proof said something. This guy said something. Proof said something. My other buddy said something, and Proof punched this guy in the face. When Proof punched this guy in the face, he broke his jaw, dislocated my friend's jaw.
Oh.
And like this guy at the time was like a big deal in the city. He was a serious gangster. I mentioned that multiple times. So like it turned into a thing where 20 guys beat the shit out of D12 in Tonic and on the streets, to the point where the bouncers literally were jumping on Proof and the other guys so that all these other guys were beating them up. Because back in those days, if you remember, Jason, there was Tonic at the corner and there was System Soundbar. And System Soundbar had a pretty rough crowd on Thursdays. So this crew of guys just had a bunch of guys that knew them. Like there's probably 30 guys out there, and they just jumped D12, beat the crap out of them, and they're all getting beat up. So D12's manager at the time was actually from Toronto.
Who was their manager at the time?
Andre, my buddy Andre. He's now passed away. So Andre passed away. He, natural causes, but he was originally from Toronto, and he was, on the road. So they're calling me, where are these guys? I know you brought them. What hotel they staying at? So I'm like, oh man, now I'm going to get pulled into this. So I lied. I was just like, look, man, I don't book their hotels. I just give them the money. We don't know what I'm lying. I'm just making it up. So as I'm saying this, I'm trying to figure it out what to do, because I'm kind of put on the spot. So what I did is I lied to my friend. I go, they usually stay here. And I told them a hotel at a completely separate end of downtown. But they had a big tour bus that was wrapped. So it's not hard to find a massive tour bus at some
Right.
point. And so, as big as Toronto is, there's only 5 at the time. This is before there was like a Ritz. It was before there was a Shangri-La. It was before there was, these high-end hotels. There's only 2 or 3 high-end hotels. So you knew they were staying at 1 of 3 places. So I'm calling Andre at like 3 in the morning. I'm like, Andre, do you trust me? I knew him for a while. He's like, I trust you. I said, you got to get the fuck out of town. I'm like, bro, I'm telling you, like proof broke the jaw of the wrong guy. And I'm telling you, like, they're not joking around. And I told them to go to this hotel. I've probably bought you guys about 20 minutes, maybe 30. 3:30 in the morning, D12 ducked it out of town. And they knew it was real because the fight in the club, they saw what happened. Like the bouncers saved them and literally were calling the police to get them to the hotel. And then I was able to kind of explain to them, like, guys, I don't know what happened. I still didn't really know what happened. I found it afterwards. It was so bad that the guy whose jaw he dislocated, just to give an example, called me a couple weeks later and said, how much did you pay D12 for the show? And I was like, I think at the time it was like 25, 30 grand. And he was like, tell them I'll give them $60,000 to do a show in Toronto.
Nope.
Oh.
And he was serious. I said, no. And I was like, listen, I go, no, dude, I'm not doing that. Don't get me involved. It's done with, blah, blah, blah.
No.
And then about a year later, he passed away. And then I was thinking in the back of my mind, I'm like, this guy still hold out this grudge and do something in Detroit. He didn't, obviously. But yeah, that was my like D12 story. That was like, yeah, it wasn't quite him, but yeah.
There's a documentary called Hip Hop Uncovered, and it's about like Bimmy, Big U, basically street dudes who have helped rappers get on. You know what I mean? And so you mentioned, these people, they're pretty serious people. I'm sure you know other people that are pretty serious people, especially if let's add to it, you grew up in Scarborough in the 80s. I'm sure you know serious motherfuckers from your childhood. In specifically the hip hop industry, do you kind of almost need some street dudes to get things done? Not necessarily to muscle people through, but to walk into certain neighborhoods and do certain things. You need to say
100%. Yeah. Look, why do you think Drake walks around with the Galloway guys? It's well documented. Like, I know that story. I don't want to talk his business, but like, there's a reason with the Galloway guys and Preem and those guys. Like, I know Drake from 06. I know Preem before that. There's a reason why Drake needed to have that street cred. And there's a reason why Drake can walk these streets in Toronto now, because he's got street cred and he's got now the money to hire professional credibility. But dude, I had guys roll up in my office. I had guys try to extort me. You know what I mean? Because I was taking all the hip hop shows in Toronto and I need to share. So I'm not sharing the artists. I need to share my money.
Whoa. So what do you say in an instance?
I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'll call you right back. I got you can talk to my partner about that and see, like, I'm not a dumb guy. I banked a lot of credit with a lot of people. So I know how to treat people. See, a lot of gangsters would come to my parties. All they wanted was to walk right in and have a nice booth. That's it. They pay for their drinks. They didn't want any fun. They just want to know that I showed them that respect. You don't think that half the club owners in this country at some point were gangsters or bikers or some sort of organized crime? Bro, I used to run the biggest shows in Montreal for 10 years. I could tell you stories about some guy threatened one of my partners, and I called this guy in Montreal. Next thing I know, 2 Italian mobsters in an SUV pulled up and picked up my partner and said, "We're your security for the day." I got stories for days. I could write a novel on just my interactions with organized crime, which I won't, but
good idea.
That's the reality of the world at some point, and not everyone's like that. There's a lot of credible people, but you know what? One thing I'll tell you, with all those gangster guys I dealt with, because I did fair and equitable business, even when I lost money, they were okay with it. They were like, you know what, bro? You didn't lose money because you're an idiot. You lose sometimes. You win and you lose. So I always made sure not to do things, you know, like I made sure how I moved. Like I never got in that world, but I knew who was who. I knew which guy was a triad, which guy was an Italian mobster. I knew which guy was a biker. I knew which club owner was a hothead and I didn't want to work with. I've gone into my fair share of scenarios where I've had to like think quick and have to navigate through, but I was always lucky that I always built equity and I never asked people for anything. So the 2 or 3 times I needed a favor, it was more like, listen, bro, I need a favor. This guy, I don't know even who he is. He's calling me and he's threatening me, saying that he da. Can you just let him know that you're with that? I'm good. And a lot of these gangster guys, they like to flex their muscles. So they're like, give me his number. Boom. So then, and then these guys know each other. So I won't even have to give the number. I remember one time I was like, listen, my partner's going to call you. You might know his name. And I will drop the name. And I'm like, I just gave him your number. He's going to call you. I'm just going to give him your number. He's going to call you. No, we're good. He doesn't need to call. So listen, that's real shit. So when you talk about walking around, listen, you know, we talk about Toronto and Scarborough and Rexdale and like, I mean, there's bad areas in the States and Canada, every city. Like, you know, you go to Halifax and you go to the wrong area, you're going to get fucked up. I've seen it.
Fuck yeah, man. Halifax is way worse than people fucking think.
No, go to Winnipeg, you go to Saskatchewan, bro. Like
Winnipeg's horrible. Winnipeg that's the continent of Canada.
Yeah, man. Like, you know, so I mean, look, you just got to know how to move in every city and align with the right people, but at the same time, like not overcommit yourself. You know, I had a lot of gangsters try to buy shows with me and partner with me, and I was like, nah, I'm good, bro. Like, I'm good. Like,
then you're in bed with them, right?
Man.
It's too close.
I was really lucky. I was close enough to them, but I kept them at a distance. But at times, it's, you know, they own the nightclub or the venue in the city that you're going to, and you got to work with them. As long as I know I'm going in there where there's a deal where unless they're really going to go and screw me, like, I'll be okay. So, like, look, you keep the bar, I'll take the door, I'll do the show. Well, they can't steal my money if I sold the show in advance, right? Because there's no deal. And then they don't want to lose me coming back and doing more shows if I'm going to do 1 or 2 shows a month there, right? So you build that. But like I had guys in Toronto, I could tell you some stories, bro. I had dudes like in Toronto, like roll up in my office, you know, questioning me like, yo, blah, 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 blah. But I'm not a punk. Like I would tell them like, yo, you're coming here for a reason. So you came here unannounced, you don't know me, and you're trying to ask me questions. So are you here to do something? Because you're gonna do it, let's do it. Like I wouldn't back down, and sometimes they'd be shocked, you know. And like it always ended on good terms. It didn't end on me like I'm not a gangster, bro. I'm not a thug. I don't walk around with a gun, so I wasn't sitting there flexing, saying like, "Yo, come on, I'll kill you." But I would tell them, I'd be like, "Bro, you don't know me. We're not friends. You walk into my office unannounced and start asking me questions. Does this look like the way you should handle things? You know what I mean?" So, but no, dude, I had a couple guys try to extort me back in the day. You know, even one of my old partners that I started substance with actually got kidnapped. It was all over the news. He got kidnapped and they tried to extort him. Yeah, that was some shit. Yeah.
Holy shit. Was it over something to do with substance or something different?
Yeah, well, he had a separate company that did nightclub events. And I guess some of his competitors in that side of things tried to flex on him, right? And then they set these guys after him and they set him up and they kidnapped him and all this crap and they were just trying to extort him. And then they did say to him, they were like, yo, we're tell your partner, Neil, we want to talk to him because he's next. Now, it never got to that. It never got to that because my partner ended up calling the police and there's a big sting. That's why it was on the news because there was a raid and they caught these guys and they all went to jail. And then that happened where those guys tried to do that. And that blew up in their face. And then there was another time something happened. But yeah, man, like it got a little bit, you know, there's been a couple of times where I thank God that I had enough grace and sense not to get too involved with people. You know what I mean? Or cross the wrong guy the wrong way. But I can see guys doing the wrong. Dude, I've seen dudes, you know, especially when you're dealing with gangsters, bro, like there's this false sense of power and you think you're something you're not. I've seen it. Like I've seen promoters start to think like they are gangsters. And I'm like, bro, you think you're a gangster because these guys come to your parties, but those same guys come to my parties. So like, you're no different than I am. You just think now that you're this tough guy. At some time your card's going to get called. And I've seen it. I've seen the crazy shit.
That's fucking wild. Is that also a thing? Like, does that exist at all in the Justin Biebers or the Rihannas? Maybe not Rihanna so much because I guess she was on Rockefeller around gangsters and rappers and shit, but no, like a Justin Bieber, is that shit a thing in that kind of that pop music like that? Not at all, eh?
Mainly hip hop, bro. Hip hop and reggae. Yeah. I mean, it
Yeah,
doesn't happen,
reggae I can see.
it doesn't happen in pop. I mean, listen, for real, the gangsters in like the Bieber, Rihanna world are the guys in the record labels. You know what I mean?
Corporate
Like,
gangsters.
the corporate gangsters, bro. But they're just as slimy because, like, you know, they're even worse because at least you know the guy in the street's not your boy and he might be coming for you. The corporate gangster will take you out and buy you gifts and make you feel like they're family, and then they'll just fuck you, right?
Yeah, yeah. And also with these gangster elements, I mean, you're a businessman, but once you're in the hip hop world, it's like you don't call the cops, right? So, like you said, you know, your partner, you're in a position where you're fucking kidnapped, your life's on the line. How can you hold that against someone?
Bro,
But is that something you have to keep in the back of your mind? Like, yo, I can't be using police all the fucking time for this shit. Every threat, every extortion attempt.
yeah, listen, listen, I don't want to get too far down the story. So when that happened, I got a call from a guy one day and he was like, yo, he was like, I was at the barbershop and your name came up and some guys are making a move to come after you and they want to like extort you and they have you and two other guys on a list of people they're coming after that are kind of like exposed and that, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it was a serious gang at the time in Toronto that got taken down by the police. So there was like this massive bust, like this massive, like multi-million dollar bust. And those guys got taken down a couple months before they were supposed to come for me. And I remember when the police did the investigation of when my old partner got extorted, I asked the police, because they came to my office one day and I was like, yo, I'm like, it was the Gangs and Guns Task Force, right? And so I asked the dude, I said, yo, you know this crew, blah, blah, blah. He goes, yeah, man, I was responsible for that whole investigation. I go, is it true that I was on some hit list that they were coming for me? He goes, yeah. He goes, I was going to tell you about that today. They were coming for you.
Whoa.
And
what does that make you feel like when you hear that?
you know what? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, this is a long time ago. This was like 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me was like, I wish they would have and see what happened. Now that's just my ego talking, right? Like,
Yep.
listen, I'm not a gangster.
Yeah.
And I'm not telling you I would have been able to shoot back at them, you know, but I'm sure they weren't going to come for me one-on-one either.
Nope.
But then part of me is kind of like, well, I wish they would have, and I would have called these guys and we would have seen, right? Like that's just male ego, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But then part of me was like, well, I'm glad I'm glad that didn't happen, right?
Yeah. Even if you made it unscathed, it'd still be a fucking issue you don't need to deal with, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, listen, yeah, look, I'm old enough now to look back, you know, we all do and say and
Yep.
this, and 15 years ago, I might have thought I was something more than what I was. I can look back now and say, look, I wasn't the smartest guy all the time, and I probably would have, my ego might have got the best of me, but at times, and who knows, but yeah, look, man, I dodged a couple bullets, but again, that's, listen, and I'll tell you guys, for all this name dropping I'm doing, and for me telling you how I grossed $7 million, like I'm not a millionaire. Like I didn't sit there and like, I'm not caking in money. I'm not, you know, it's not Rolls Royces and Ferraris in my driveway. You know what I mean? I don't have, you know, a cottage in Muskoka or wherever hell. Like I'm just a regular dude. I might have been able to do a little bit better than some, but like for all of that hard work and all of that, you know, it's like, you have to watch out for people trying to extort you and like people robbing you and ripping you off and screwing you and artists canceling tours. Bro, like the game owes me $100,000. I sent them money. They never sent it back. You know, like, I mean, I haven't even talked about the times where artists just didn't pay us back money. Right.
Wow. So the artists themselves fuck you over at times.
Well, you know, and that's part of my fault. You know, the thing is you build personal relationships. Like I've been to Games House in LA. I was the only guy to ever bring him to Canada. So you get into these levels of comfort where you're like, yo, that's my guy. So instead of sending money in escrow,
yep,
you just send it to him directly because that's the homie.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the show doesn't have, the tour gets canceled, not because of my fault, but for whatever reason, then the numbers change. Or you don't hear from them. You know, so I've been taking, bro, I've easily been taken for a couple $100,000 in deposits, probably $250 in deposits that I've never gotten back. Right. So that's a lot of money for a guy like me. I didn't have investors. I didn't really have partners for a long time. I did for a bit, but like, that's money out of my pocket. Like that's money that would pay off my mortgage. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, as much as I can sit here and brag about hanging out with Jay-Z and this and that, I mean, there's you know, you kind of earn your dues. That's what people don't see, right? But you earn those times when you have to sit here and literally be in tears because I did a game tour and he got turned away when he landed in Halifax. And I'm in Halifax doing a 10-city tour, and all my partners across Canada are calling me, and it's all over the news, and the game's tweeting that they turned him away from Canada. My phone's about to die, and then my phone shuts off in Halifax, and everyone thinks I'm dodging them. And you're waking up to everything from like death threats to people telling you they're going to sue them. You know, now listen, I'm here 12 years later and I made it right with everybody. I called everybody back that night. I said, my phone died. I don't know what's going on, but I'll pay you back your money. And to be honest with you, I'm not a dummy. I actually didn't have to pay anybody back their money because I made them sign an agreement releasing me of any liability if there was an issue with the show. So technically, I could have played that. But because I felt personal accountability that I sent the money to him directly instead of into an escrow account, I felt I owed it to people to pay them back. So I paid out of my pocket $120,000 to different people that I owed money to who were my partners across Canada.
That's,
And to this day,
a stand-up move.
And to this day, some of those guys are still some of my closest friends because they know, like, your word is all you have, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't still be here standing fucking 12 years later if, you know what I mean? Possibly you could be, but if you're just like, oh, no, you know what? I'm not liable. It's like, well, what about the fact that, you know, we know each other, we're friends. You're just going to leave me hanging out to dry? Fuck you, signatures on the paper, right? So you're doing a stand-up thing. Before we let you get out of here, let's touch a little bit on Substance Group, because I'm sure I could sit here for the next fucking 72 hours and listen to you tell hip-hop stories. I love hip-hop. I've loved it since I was a kid in the fucking 80s. I heard Run DMC come out. I lost my fucking mind and never looked back, man. So we're never going to get out of here if we keep on these hip-hop stories.
Well, then I'll just tell you real quickly that the one show where I was a fan, where I sat there in awe, just so you know, because my daughter and I were talking about it like yesterday, was the only show where I ever literally was like emotional, and where I would literally was just like, I went to the artist like a fan, to the point where he was like, okay, I get it, bro, you're a fan, like fuck off, right? And I've worked with Jay. I've done a show with Jay, Kanye, like I've done them all, right?
Yeah.
Big Daddy Kane was the only show where I
Nice.
Oh, he's fuck, man. Big Daddy Kane is there. There would be no Jay-Z, I don't think, without a Big Daddy Kane.
Sure.
Like Jay-Z took so
There
much.
may not be an Eminem without a Big Daddy Kane.
Well, I mean, there wouldn't be a lot of rappers with a Big Daddy Kane, but the way Jay took so much from Big Daddy Kane style, he didn't copy it, he didn't steal it. You know what I mean? It's like this new improved version. And I'm talking about Jay, like the 90s, early 2000s, that Jay, not the fucking crazy hair Jay we got going on now.
You know what? I'll tell you.
Yeah, man, that's
it took me almost 3 years to get him in the country. There was a lot of challenges that were, you know, whatever. It was a lot of work to get him in. There was a rumor going around years ago that he got AIDS and he gave AIDS to somebody in Toronto. There was, you know, he had a criminal record from like a really stupid criminal record from like 30 years ago, but he had to go get FBI fingerprints and reports to do it. And he doesn't like the police because his brother was killed by the police, so he didn't want to do it. So I fought for 3 years to bring this guy here. I finally got him here, you know, and it was not even the day he came, it started snowing. Like it was just like everything to like make the show almost not happen. He had not been to Toronto in like 15 years. And so it was a big meaning for me because, you know, I grew up on, that was what really felt, I already loved hip hop, but that really was my guy. And there's a connection Toronto has to Kane that's hard to explain, you know, like he just had an influence on Toronto in the like 90s, so early, in the late 80s.
Late 80s, yeah. So
anyways, he stops the show. Like literally, I've never seen anything like this, guys. He gets on stage and he just walks because he's so calm. And the crowd, they just clapped for like 2 minutes. No music. They just went clap and just there was this energy. So I told my staff, I'm like, don't bother me when he's on the show, when he's performing, leave me alone. I'm going to be on the side of the stage. Leave me alone. And I remember starting to get like, no joke, like literally getting emotional. Like I was like starting to get like lumps in my throat, which is weird. I'm not even an emotional guy. And he goes, ladies and gentlemen, he goes, I want you to thank the man that made this happen. And he goes, my man Neil, come out here on stage. And and I was like, and here I am, like with literally crocodile tears. And I'm like, motherfucker, motherfucker, like don't call me out like that. But anyways, I went out and I just thanked, like I just went like that, and I thanked him. I was like, yo, thank you, man, just go, you know. But that was like a really dope moment for me. That was like my big moment.
That's awesome. I really like stand-up comedy a lot. And there's a stand-up comedian named Tom Segura, and one of his specials, probably I don't know, seven. You know Tom Segura? His one special when he's like, I saw Big Daddy Kane in Los Angeles one time. By the way, if you don't know what Big Daddy Kane is, you can go fuck yourself. I love that. I love when he says that because it's like, yeah, I get how some people might not know who Big Daddy Kane is, but I feel the same way. If you don't know him, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, man.
He's the shit, man. Yo, he let off a freestyle, obviously written, but that doesn't matter. On Funk Flex maybe 2 years ago, and fucking incredible. You know, he's in his 50s and he is just destroying the fucking mic and putting little shots in at younger rappers and stuff, how they're not him. They will never ever fucking be him or be compared to him or in his caliber. I love that shit, man.
Yeah,
Kane was dope.
he was, bro. He was. But
Absolutely.
anyway, you were gonna ask me about Substance Group, I believe.
Yes. So with the pandemic, obviously Substance Group, what it started as, and you know, taking a look at the website the last few days, it's a lot of virtual experiences and stuff like that. Did this pandemic force you to change your business structure?
Oh, 1000%. I mean, look, I've been really lucky, and I said this before, but like, you know, your reputation is all you have, and without that, I wouldn't have survived the pandemic. You know, I was primarily doing experiential marketing and like, you know, in-person marketing, like, you know, events, you know, brand launches. And that was what we were known for. And when the pandemic hit, everything got canceled. Like we lost a couple $1 million in business within 2 weeks. Every freaking day we were getting a call canceling, cancel. It was just insane. Like it was just one of those moments where it's like, imagine waking up every day and getting punched in the face 2 or 3 times and going out.
Good morning.
Boom, boom, boom. So anyways, like I was saying earlier, like I really, that happened at the end of March. And then I kind of sat there trying to figure out what was going on. In the month of April and May, everything was just quiet, no calls. Everyone was trying to figure things out. But I'll be honest, I didn't even try to do anything. I just said, you know what, fuck this, man. I'm just going to take some time. Like I'm just going to enjoy my dogs and my kids and reset and stop and figure it out. I mean, like, you know, I'm still young. I think I'm smart enough to get back on my feet. We'll figure this out. Made a couple financial changes with the business. And then I decided to go and do virtual events. I just gave it a shot and I started making some calls and emails, and my clients were like, bro, let's go. We need help. We need to do virtual events. And I think a lot of the clients have said this, and I know this, that they just had faith in me that I could deliver for them. And transparently speaking, I didn't really have much experience. I just threw it out there that I would do it. And I had this service offering, and clients were like, jumped on it right away. So last year, it's now become one of our big revenue streams within the company. Look, it's now an added revenue stream. You know, even though we're going back into the real world, it looks like there's still going to be some need at some point throughout the year for virtual events. So we've now kind of perfected that. And look, the other thing that the pandemic really did is it allowed me to reflect on my business, on the things that weren't working anyways pre-pandemic. And it allowed me to assess the business properly without being tied down day to day with making decisions based on finances or operations. And so I was able to kind of go back and reset and restart, almost in some ways reset the company, make some changes. And so I've made some sort of changes within the business that have proven to be amazing. And, you know, last year, 2021 was like maybe our most successful year yet. So I went from having I went from having my worst year ever in 2020, personally and professionally, to having arguably my best professional year in 2021. So, you know, I hate to say this, but the pandemic was awful for a lot of people, and it sucked for me for a good 3-4 months easily. But it was also a blessing for me because I used it as a way to get to better myself and reflect and change a lot of things in my life. And so I'm better for it. Now, I know everybody can't say that, and I feel bad saying that about myself, but you know, I try to make lemonade out of lemons, I guess.
That's fair. And like you said, you know, the world's allowed outside. Well, especially fucking Ontario, Canada. We're starting to almost be allowed outside again. And I'm not one of these persons like anti-vax, anti-mask. I'm more about choice, right? Like fucking, you know what I mean? Do what you want to do. But if you walk into a place of business, and I don't care if it's a convenience store, it says no shirt, no shoes, no service. That's their fucking business. Abide by what they say, right? But I'm not gonna fucking do what people want to do. Now, you know, it looks like we're gonna be off our grounding soon. So, are you gonna be doing both then, the virtual and? Oh yeah. Now that you have mastered of both, would that only make sense? Now, in your predictions, do you think that that's gonna not necessarily double, but increase revenue for your company a whole bunch when you're hitting both these markets?
Oh, definitely. I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, we were very, very successful last year with the virtual events. I don't see it being the same right now, but I think there'll be a need. I think that especially especially in the winter months, God forbid there's another pandemic
I hope not.
or a natural disaster, but we've now found use for Zoom meetings and virtual. And
Yep.
so I think it still will serve a purpose, maybe not as much as last year, but even if it's only 20 or 30% instead of 100% of the time or 90% of the time. So yeah, listen, I'm not going to abandon it. We'll continue to offer that as a service offering. I think the next 6 months, it's going to be, people are going to go batshit crazy.
Yeah.
I already know they are. I'm already dealing with some live events and some stuff happening across Canada where I'm already hearing festivals selling out already and record ticket sales and just crazy shit that's happening. Vendors we can't even find certain vendors because they're getting all these projects to build things for the summer. So I think it's going to be an insane summer. I think everyone's going to go crazy. And I think come October, November, when people are spent financially and physically, they'll probably be like, okay, we'll sit back down in front of a desk for a virtual event. So yeah, I think it's even for me, like, dude, I didn't even know how to do an e-transfer online. I didn't do online. I didn't know how to do like Zoom meetings. Not that it's hard, but I just didn't know. Like I had staff.
Yeah, you just never did it before.
But like, it forces you to do things. I mean, it's really easy to do. It took 5 minutes to learn, but now I've learned a few new skills and a few new things to do. And
with the metaverse that's getting more popular every single day, is that something that you plan to get into with the virtual experience?
I'm already kind of dabbling. I haven't done anything with the metaverse, but like NFTs and metaverse and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's part of the conversations almost daily.
Right.
I kind of smirk when you mentioned it because it's funny because I'm working on a proposal right now for a client and it involves the metaverse.
Yeah.
And ironically, I had a long conversation about the metaverse today with somebody explaining to them what the metaverse kind of is. And I'm like, it's not this, anyways. So yeah, I mean, it's a necessary evil, if I don't know if you want to call it that, but it's part of, everyone's jumping into it, I guess.
Yeah, it's what life is, what it's going to become, right? It's another aspect. And for someone like you, there's a battle rapper named Bill Collector we had on a while ago, and he's really into this shit. And anyone I've asked explain metaverse to me, they're like, oh, I can't explain it. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? That doesn't help. So he explained it a little bit, but like the one thing he really pointed out to me is, in the future, you're going to see artists putting concerts on metaverse. And that's how you literally buy your ticket.
It's already happened. Not an artist making a concert, but there's been like raves and some festivals.
Oh, really? Yeah,
it's
already happening.
But it's like imagine the first party you went to, it was shit. So like
no booze, no nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, it's still very limited and it's still very intimidating.
Yeah.
I think some people are trying to run before they walk, but I mean, look, I think it'll serve its purpose in some ways. I mean, it's cool. It's another toy for humans to have to play and explore. I mean, I don't know how far we're going to push the limits of technology and sort of all that stuff, but it's a real thing, and everyone seems to be jumping in and going it all in. Companies every day are mentioning or investing in it, but it's just another thing that I've got to stay on top of, so I'm ahead of the curve, or at least on top of the trends, right? So, I've got some pretty cool concepts with things that we want to present clients with the metaverse. I'm pretty lucky. It's funny because a lot of guys from the music industry that I was friends with 20 years ago, they've been able to kind of pivot into this metaverse NFT, or like they're using their entertainment stuff to do technology stuff. So I've been able to sort of connect with a few guys that I bumped into over the years that I worked with 15 years ago that are like running NFT companies, like big ones, like and metaverse companies and other technology things. So yeah, I mean, it's just a real thing. You can't ignore it at this point. I'm not the biggest. By the way, I'm not the biggest adopter of technology. I still like to consider myself an old head. I'm cool with like old school shit. But I'm an 80s boy. Like I still love my retro days, but like you can't ignore it. I mean, it's just too big of a wave to ignore.
Too big of a force, for sure. And I think I already know the answer to this, especially after what you just fucking said. Do you think, in your opinion, will virtual performances ever take over in-person performance as the fan, as the consumer?
I don't think so. I mean, it's an interesting question. I mean, I don't know. That's a tough question to answer. I mean, I see merits for both, right? I mean, I see merits for both, but I mean, again, I'm just gonna go on my bias, old school side. Like nothing beats the real thing.
It doesn't, man. You show up with your fucking ticket and they rip the fucking stub off. You go in, you get a drink, you get ready for the concert to start. Like that's shit.
Here's the thing, though, guys. We feel like that, but tell that to a 10-year-old who's never had that experience.
Exactly.
They want to grow up in a world where they could save half their money and have just as much of an experience, at least in their world. Right? Like our kids will never know the sound of vinyl, or they may now, but I'm just saying, like, there's certain things that they'll never understand. That you're like, dude, you're missing out. So imagine in 20 years when you're trying to tell your kids what it was like to go to the Air Canada Center to go to a live concert and smell like the sweat in the air of everybody. Right?
No shit. And you're fucking, I know, like you said, you don't drink or anything like that, but you got a few drinks in you, and there's, you're there with your group of people, whatever, and there's another group of people beside you that you don't fucking know. They're like complete strangers. But as the night goes on, the songs keep playing. You start fucking chatting with them, singing along to the songs with them. It's just, it's such a better experience, like you said, for people like our age. I'm right around the same age as you, to have that experience over sitting at home in your living room. It's like Versus when that shit started. I like what they do with a lot of the Versus things. And there was definitely a need for it. Like when Timbo and RZA went against each other, or sorry, Premier and RZA went against each other and all that shit. But I mean, it's not the same. It's not the same as being in that venue.
Well, they are in venues now.
Now.
Like, but I mean, look, that's the thing, right? I mean, it's not the metaverse is not meant for people like us on this call, right? It's meant for like the few, like the kids that are like 5, 10, 15 years old, 20 years old. Like they're going to be the adopters of this thing. I mean, look, I did a panel discussion last year about how do you build a network? How do you get business? And I was the only panelist, and I said straight up, I go, I don't use softwares. I don't use CRMs. I don't use these tools that you guys use. I go, I just have a Rolodex. Like I just built equity personally for 25 years. And look, it was a really good conversation because they saw merit in what I did. And these guys admittedly said, look, we don't have the human interaction capabilities and that sort of like energy you have. Right.
Do you think that, like, guys our age, guys that are into the Big Daddy Kanes, right? The in-person concertship, does that make it more difficult for you to connect with a newer age rapper if you were still in that industry?
I think so, yeah. I mean, unless you're going to be like forward thinking, like unless you're like a Gary V who's just like, he just early adopts everything. So he can be 50, but he'll be right in tune with those 20-year-olds because he buys into it right away. I'm a guy, I'm kind of like slow and steady. I don't really like technology. Like I don't hate it, but I'm just kind of like, like I'm not an early adopter. I'm sort of the second or third generation adopter. So like, but for a guy like me, who's kind of like the world is just moving so fast. And and I'll use Gary Vee as an example, but like he knows his role. He's like, I'm a technology guy. So anything tech, I'm in. So you could make the craziest thing of technology. And he's in. He knows about it before it comes out, and he's aware of it before anyone knows. He's in. He buys it as he promotes that, right? But like, put Gary Vee like 40 years ago when it was analog, and he would have been out of his element. Not to diss him. I'm just saying, like, he's a technology guy, so he buys into it. So he can be 60 and still be as hip as the 20-year-old because that's his world. I'm an events guy. Like, I'm not a technology guy. I'm an events person. I'm a concert promoter. I'm a festival guy. I'm a experiential marketing guy. I'm not a technology guy. So for me, it's a little bit harder to adapt because it's like, shit, I guess I really got to accept it. Dude, let me show you something. You see my phone? Does that help? It's a BlackBerry.
Oh, hell no.
It's a black. I was like, it's a black screen. You got a fucking BlackBerry still?
Yeah, man.
When did you get that? 2007?
Actually, no. It's an Android. It's only 2 years old. It's like one of the newer models, but it's an Android, but it's a BlackBerry. Like I don't have a Samsung. I don't have an Apple. I'll never get one. I don't care to have them. There's nothing wrong with them. They're great phones. I'm just saying, like, I'm not an electronics guy, like I only recently put email on my phone. I don't have social media on my phone. I'm just like, it's not, and there's nothing wrong with that. Teach his own. I'm just saying, like, I'm more of like, I want to go out and have dinners and meet people. I want to go and sit down. I want to get to know people. I want to be able to connect with you on an emotional, human level. Like, I don't want to have to go my entire relationship being on email or being digital or not real, you know, like that's how I came up for 30 years before social media became a thing. So it's hard to just change, and I had success in it. So it's hard to change that now.
And that makes a lot more sense for me now too. When I message you on Facebook Messenger, sometimes it can take 4 days to hear back from you. If I text you, it's within 10, 15 minutes I hear back from you.
No, I don't even check my Facebook. I don't even check my
Facebook. I know.
Like, I don't even check my LinkedIn. And I'm just saying, like, there's like LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter.
Yeah. When does it end?
When does it end? Right? When does it end? So, you know, everyone has their own opinions and adopts technology in different ways. You know, I'm just kind of like, I accept it, but I'm not this pro tech guy. Like, technology.
Gotta start learning to write code and shit.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Neil, this has been awesome. Before we get out of here, is there anything else you want to plug or any more details you want to touch on for the Autistic Job Fair or anything like that?
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, like our job fair for job seekers that are, you know, that have autism, it's called Spectrum Works. It's April 8th. It's across Canada. You can go to spectrumworks.ca if you want to attend it, or if you're an employer and you're watching this and you'd like to attend as an employer looking to hire people. You know, my marketing company, thesubstancegroup.com. But yeah, I have to think about that. Thesubstancegroup.com. Like we just do a lot of marketing campaigns across North America, live, in person, experiential, digital, virtual events, all that kind of stuff, man. That's sort of what my world is about right now.
And Amy, anything else you want to touch on with Neil before we let him go?
No, I think we're good, man.
Yeah, man. That was fucking like I'm sure you know who Ron Fraser is, Neil, boxing coach, Randy Couture. Okay, he's been on the show like 3 or 4 times, and I've known Ron for quite a long time. And when he comes on, after the first time we've had him on, I was like, yo, this is story time with Ron Fraser. So every time he comes on, it's like story time with Ron Fraser part 2, part 3. This is fucking story time with Neil Forrester part 1 right here. I love this shit, man. I love this. I love just kicking it and hearing the stories and talking about whatever, as opposed to like, you know, oh, let me prepare my answers.
Q&A,
Q&A. Like, this is fucking fun, man. This is why I do this shit. I love this.
Even if you did that, I wouldn't even write I'm like that too, man. I just go like, let's just go.
Exactly, man. Let's just fucking talk. We're 2 human beings. Let's sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it.
Well, I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, we're definitely doing this again in a few months. Definitely. You're not off the hook. Whenever you're free, I'm going to keep catching you every few months.
Wicked,
swinging you back in.
I'm down, brother.
Nice. All right.
Okay, guys.
Substance Group for Neil Forrester, Amy Barton, Krill Kasatsky. I'm Jay Kelly. This is Spelling Downtown. We're out. Peace.
Building downtown, building downtown, building downtown.